So this was a very beautiful performance from the students of Shiksha Anusandhan College. To begin with, I would also like to extend our gratitude to Shiksha Anusandhan University for providing the logistic support for organizing this mock G20 in their campus. We are also thankful to Indian Institute of Democratic Leadership for partnering with us for organizing this mock G20. The key objectivity for organizing the mock G20 is to inform, educate, and sensitize the student community about G20 working streams and to promote awareness about international relations in order to achieve the vision of making India the skill capital of the world. To start with, I would like to welcome Ms. Archana Mayaram Ma'am, Economic Advisor, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, for setting the context of the mock G20, ma'am. Ms. Archana Mayaram is a 2000 batch officer of Indian Economic Service. She is presently posted as Economic Advisor in MSDE. In her career of 18 years, she has served in several key positions, which includes Officer on Special Duty to the Finance Secretary, G20, Infrastructure and Bilateral Cooperation Divisions of Department of Economic Affairs. We request you, ma'am, to provide your remarks.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I'm grateful to Dr. Usha Titus, who's a 1993 batch IAS officer from the Kerala cadre, to come here as chief guest, and that too at a very short notice. So thank you, ma'am. I have worked with ma'am, and she has been the interlocutor and at the forefront of the negotiations for G20 when she was Joint Secretary at the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and represented India not only at G20 but also at several other international forums such as SAARC, United Nations, Asian Infrastructure Development Bank, New Development Bank. So I have seen ma'am at the helm of the affairs, and thick of things. So I'm very, very grateful to her for having agreed to come here as chief guest. And when we were organizing, when we were thinking of this idea of replicating, the G20 discussions to sensitize the students as to how the proceedings of G20 work, hers was the first name that cropped up in my mind. And what better than to have her here to guide the students. So thank you once again, ma'am. Thank you. Under India's G20 presidency this year, we are also deliberating the reforms in the multilateral organizations like the World Bank to address global contemporary challenges. G20 is well situated to drive the discussions on much needed changes as it has emerged as one of the most powerful global economic policy setting forums. The key feature of G20 is that it also includes advanced economies, BRICS countries, and other emerging market economies. This idea behind organizing the mock G20 is to sensitize young minds, all of you present here, to the working of G20 and to increase awareness about the major issues confronting the forum. I'm confident that many of you would grow up to represent India's interests in various capacities in the international stage. The overarching theme of all the events that we are organizing at Bhubaneswar is the future of work. For all of you, we have chosen a very simple way to explain things to you, where we would be replicating education working group meeting. And all of you who are representing G countries today, international organizations and the invitee countries, would negotiate a draft minister's declaration that has already been shared with you. I hope that all of you would enjoy this process of learning and take some good learning as well as happy memories back home. With these words, I also thank the Vice Chairman of Shiksha Anusandhan for providing us all the support in organizing this event, and also the Institute of Democratic Leadership for partnering with us. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your remarks. Now I would like to request Professor Pradipta Kumar Nanda, Vice Chancellor, Shiksha Anusandhan University, for his address.
Good morning, all of you. Esteemed Chief Guest of this function, Dr. Usha Titus, Chairperson and Managing Director of Additional Skill Acquisition Program, Kerala. Ms. Archana Mayaram Madam, Economic Advisor, MSTC, and Senior Consultant, Ms. Arisa Fatma Madam, and Sri Devendra Pai, Course Director, Indian Institute of Democratic Leadership, Mumbai, and our Dean Students Welfare, Professor Jyotinandan Das, and Dr. Priyabhat Patnaik, Additional Dean Research of our university, and all the delegates, student delegates, faculty delegates for this 2 days G20, mock G20. It's our pleasure to host the mock G20 meeting in our university, and yes, it is quite gratifying to learn that there will be a kind of a mock session of all the countries and also deliberation on different issues. As far as our university is concerned, yes, we have been hosting many G20 events, and this is one of the prime events, I believe. And with the expertise of the chairperson, I think with the chief guest, Dr. Usha Titus, who has actually worked extensively in G20, really represented the G20 in the forum for Government of India, will definitely highlight. As far as the future of work is concerned, I heard there are a lot of deliberations will go on, and a lot of perceptions which you can say misconceptions or conceptions will evolve to a consolidating to a newly evolved conceptions of future of the work, which I think all the young generations will face in the future. And I'm very proud that this year India is actually has in the presidency of G20, and therefore there is a vibrancy in the country, whole country. And this month is Odisha's turn that a lot of events are organized in G20, and this is our particularly university is hosting this. I am very grateful to the ministry that given us the opportunity to host this. I thank all my colleagues who have I think strived hard to make this program success. I thank the ministry and the Archana Madam and all who have actually have faith in us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now it gives me immense pleasure and honor to invite our chief guest for the day, Dr. Usha Titus ma'am, Chairperson and Managing Director, ACP Kerala. Ma'am has already introduced ma'am, but I would like to take this opportunity to further would like to talk about the experiences of ma'am. She has served as the district collector of Palakkad and Kozhikode district, where she was the first lady to hold charge. Dr. Titus has held multiple hats during her tenure at state government, which includes secretary in charge of the Department of Medical Education, Social Welfare, Non-Resident Kerala Affairs, Environment and Education. Apart from these roles, she has also served as a registrar of IT Madras and as the Vice Chancellor of Kerala Technological University. She's also been deputy to the Government of India as Joint Secretary of the Department of Economic Affairs in Ministry of Finance, where she led multilateral revisions and represented India in several international forums, including SAARC, G20, BRICS, NDB and ADPI. We welcome you, ma'am, for your keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arisha, for those remarks. It gives a dear Archana Mayaram, dear Professor Pradipta Kumar Nanda, Professor Jyoti Ranjan Das, Sri Devendra Pai, other faculty members from Chichao Anusandhan University, Dr. Shaila Shah, member, okay, from the Indian Institute of Democratic Leadership, students, and dear friends. It gives me great pleasure to be here with you this morning, as the presence of youth in any space energizes it with your bright faces, the hopes that are there in your eyes. I also take this opportunity to congratulate Archana Mayaram and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship in organizing such a session to enable the students who are the key stakeholders of the future of our country and all countries of this world to be more aware and sensitive on how international cooperation can have effective outcomes for all our countries. You know, the world we live in now may be divided into countries with borders, but it is connected by technology and is characterized by the key feature of interdependence, which is driven by global trade and the mobility of human persons. This poses challenges and opportunities. And as we are all aware, the challenge that we faced recently that has actually changed the way we live and work has been the COVID-19, where a virus from one part of the world was able to change livelihoods and lives and the way we work in all parts of the globe. Similarly, other crises that arise in any part of the world due to this interdependence can threaten other parts. And that's exactly what happened in 2008, when a financial crisis that took place in the banking system in the United States threatened the entire globe with the prospect of a Great Depression. And then 20 significant economies of the world that included advanced economies like United States, Germany, France, UK, Italy, and emerging market economies of systemic importance such as China, India, Russia, Brazil, together contributing 90% of the global GDP, 80% of global trade, and 2/3 of the world's population, got together to discuss how to bring back, restore global growth, to strengthen the international financial architecture, and to reform international financial institutions. This meeting was significant in that it was held at the level of the heads of governments. And we know that the coordinated response that was mounted by all the 20 economies had an effective outcome over the years. Hence, this annual meeting came to be held regularly and rotating amongst the member countries. You know that, as has been mentioned by Archana, there is no permanent secretariat or office for the G20. The chair country hosts the secretariat or the office for that year and runs the meetings. And discussions are held at working group levels. And in the working group, all countries get to give their remarks on the agenda on the table. New agenda are placed by the chair country. And in 2010, the G20 that was hitherto a primarily discussing financial and economic issues, put development on the table. And thus the development working group started its deliberations. And initially the focus was on agriculture, trade, energy, climate change, and all the issues that faced the world. This year, when India became the chair, India significantly placed education as important enough to have a dedicated working group. And therefore, the working group chaired by the Indian Secretaries of Education, the Higher Education Secretary, has started its functioning, and next week we have the third working group meeting in Bhubaneswar, and this is a precursor event to the development working group. And why education? All of you here in this mock G20 are primary stakeholders in this domain of education. We know that the SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal 4, calls on every country to ensure inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. But we know that we are in a world that is quite unequal. Just as the international cooperation in the financial world was effective to a large extent. An international cooperation is required to be mounted in the field of education so that we can bring this SDG into effect. We can implement this SDG in all our countries so that we have a good quality of education and lifelong learning opportunities for all, drawing from the best practices and the best technologies that our countries possess. So the focus of the Development Working Group this time is, in this session, is on the future of work. Why? Because the Development Working Group has decided to look at 4 pillars: fundamental literacy and numeracy, technology-enabled enhanced learning through technology, research collaboration, and future of work. Now, when we talk of future of work, how is it important? Because all of our stakeholders, students, people, businesses, should be aware of how workforces and workplaces can change in the future. Just as our interests change, whether it is clothes, whether it is food, whether it is a type of books we read or the movies we see, the workplaces are also changing. And we think that COVID-19 was the watershed moment. But even before COVID-19, there were changes in the workplace. What COVID-19 did was to accelerate the trends, the changes. And there are 3 broad trends that are happening. One is a remote workforce, a hybrid workplace, and virtual meetings. The second is remote transactions or virtual transactions through e-commerce, through online banking, through telemedicine, and streaming entertainment. All of us are beneficiaries of this. However, we need to discuss the pitfalls in having a remote means of transactions, and we need to have a coordinated response to plug the loopholes and ensure that all our countries benefit and wealth is created in all our countries. And the third broad trend is automation and artificial intelligence, used increasingly, adapted by industry in order to reduce their costs and to be competitive in the market. In such a scenario, borders dissolve. And as businesses can now contact anyone across the world for work purposes, and as you know, for teaching, learning purposes. This is the reason why we need to have a collaborative discussion on taking our youth forward, the future generation forward, to face the challenges from a pretty equal platform, where we are fully aware of what is going to happen, what we must be prepared for, how we must be prepared for, the soft skills that we need to acquire, the domain skills, particularly in STEM. And I'm glad to note that most of you are from the STEM fields. How the STEM jobs become more important, and how we need to disseminate that to those who are unable to access the education and the skill development that is required for survival in the future. Let me conclude by wishing each one of you fruitful deliberations today, learning that will take you through your life, to rise up to be ambassadors of our country, wherever you may be placed, so that your family, your country, our earth, our future benefits in a common way. Let me conclude paraphrasing Rabindranath Tagore's words. May the deliberations of the G20 in the Education Working Group, and in the mock G20 session that carries the essence of those deliberations, enable the youth of all our countries to have minds without fear, to hold their heads high, to promote free movement of knowledge, and the creation of a heaven of freedom based on one family, one earth, and one future. All the very best.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your experience and for motivating our students to shine in the future and to work hard towards productivity. So going ahead, I would like to invite Sri Devendra Pai, Course Director, Indian Institute of Democratic Leadership, Mumbai, Maharashtra, for his address.
Thank you, Arisha. A very good morning to all the young delegates present in this room. I don't know how many of you know this, but India is now the most populous country in the world. India houses 1/5 of the global population. India houses 50% of the world's under 25 population, 65% of the world's under 35 population. The average age of an India is 29, making India one of the youngest nations in the world. India houses more than 73,000 startups. There are 100 plus unicorns in this country. But then the same success is not seen when we talk about democracy or governance, especially the participation of the youth. The average age of a minister in this country is 58. Only 12% of the Lok Sabha MPs are under the age of 40, when we have 65% of our population under the age of 35. The average age of a Lok Sabha MP is 54. Friends, when I'm giving you statistics about India, things are not different in the world. The average age of a member of parliament or a senate member in the world is 53, just one lesser than this country. People under 30 form less than 2% of world's MPs. About 30% of world's elected houses have no member under the age of 30. Friends, I only want to draw your attention to the very fact that the absence of youth in policy making, governance, and democracy is quite alarming. And I want all of you to see this mock G20 as a stimulus which will encourage you to join politics, international relations, policy research, and governance. I hope we will be successful in this endeavor at this event today. I once again thank the Honorable Ministry for taking us on board as partners for the event. It's really an honor. And last but not least, wishing all the delegates a very best of luck for today's show.
Thank you so much, Devendra. Now I would like Archana ma'am to facilitate our chief guest for the day, Usha Titus ma'am, with a beautiful Patrachitra painting and a Triya.
Our Vice Chancellor will felicitate chief guest.
उनको हम फेलिसिटेट करेंगे.
नहीं नहीं ये हमारा है दोस्त.
Now I will request Dr. Shalia Shah ma'am, Deputy Secretary MSD, to felicitate Professor Pradipta Kumar Nanda, Vice Chancellor Shiksha Anusandhan University, for supporting us in the entire organizing of the program. Now we will have a group photo for the day. We will have a one group photo.
So we can take it in a longer shot, if it is possible, so that we cover all the students and faculty members.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to hand over the mic to Professor Jyoti Ranjan Das, Dean Students Welfare, Shiksha Anusandhan University, for felicitating the chief guest.
I am privileged to request Professor Pradipta Kumar Nandan, Vice Chancellor, to felicitate the chief guest of the occasion with a memento of Konark Chakra on behalf of his deemed to university. Now I request Honorable Vice Chancellor to felicitate Asa ma'am. Now it is the time for felicitating to Devendra Pai. Now I request Honorable Vice Chancellor to felicitate Sailasa ma'am. Now at last, the anchor, Alisa ma'am, to receive the felicitation from Honorable Vice Chancellor. All of you have a big round of applause for this.
Thank you so much, sir. And we would like to extend our gratitude to Patnaik ji, the Associate Dean of Shiksha Anusandhan University, for all the support in organizing this program. So this is the inaugural session we have just convened. Now we will move to the country-wise discussions for the day. So with this note, we have a small presentation which will be made by Arshna ma'am and Shalya Shah ma'am for regarding the mock G20 and the processes of G20 structures and the various work streams and the event format. So I would request the team to please start the presentation and so that we can start the overall now. Request the organizing team to please dim a light a bit so that the screen is visible to everybody. Thank you, ma'am.
So presentation is on the screen now, the projector screen. And I'll just give you a brief introduction about G20. Although we've already given you the sensitization yesterday, but we thought that it would be a good idea to once again refresh your memory and run you through the processes and the origin of G20. So can we go to the first slide, please? What is G20? So we'll give you a broad, brief history and overview. If you could move to the next slide, please, where we have the background. So the group of G20 was formed in 1999. I had informed you yesterday also as basically after the aftermath of the 1997 global Asian financial crisis. And at that time, it was only at the level of the finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss the global economic and financial issues. It was actually raised to the level of the heads of the state, or leaders as we call it, in the wake of the global economic and financial crisis of 2008. And the first Leaders Summit was held on 14-15 November in 2008 at Washington, D.C. G20 plays an important role in shaping and strengthening the global architecture and governance on all major international economic issues, and the G20 summit is held annually under the leadership of a rotating presidency. Like we said, that the group of G20 does not have a permanent secretariat, and it is basically supported by a troika. Troika is the term which is coined for 3 countries, which are basically the previous, that is the outgoing presidency, which in this case is Indonesia, current presidency, which is India, and the incoming presidency, which will be Brazil. Agenda under the G20, like even the chief guest of the day had said, has expanded over the years, where development came onto the table in 2010. And now G20 deliberates various topics such as trade, climate change, sustainable development, health, agriculture, energy, environment, and education, anti-corruption, etc. Can we go to the next slide? This is just to show you the G20 member countries, the guest countries, and the international organizations. We had told you yesterday also that there are 9 invitee countries that India has, and there are IOs that are international organizations. So the international organizations are the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, ILO, that is the International Labour Organization. There is UNESCO, I'm told UNICEF in the Education Working Group meetings. So there are several OECD. OECD has actually become a very important international organization in spearheading the deliberations at the G20. And G20 members, represent around 85% of the global GDP. So it's a very, very important forum, and which has actually a lot of role now in shaping the global economic policy, which then feeds into the domestic economic policies also. So next slide, please. Structure is broadly like this. There are 2 tracks. One is called the finance track, other is called the Sherpa track. Finance track covers issues which are technical in nature, such as the financial architecture, framework working group, sustainable financing, and is headed by the finance ministers and the central bank governors. India's deputy is the Secretary of Department of Economic Affairs. Whereas Sherpa track covers the issues of the development working track, and it covers issues like climate change, education, green energy. So all these are issues which are covered under the Sherpa track, and our Sherpa under the India's G20 is Mr. Amitabh Kant. He is a former IAS officer again of the Kerala cadre. In each thematically oriented working group, representatives from relevant ministries of the members as well as from the international organizations and invited guest countries, they participate, they deliberate. We have also taught you yesterday how the negotiations take place, and today you will be replicating how the education working group meetings actually take place. We have few glimpses of G20 in the next slide to take you through, to give you a flavor of, how different meetings have actually evolved. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just basically to give you a glimpse of the various meetings of the G20 that have been held, and how the group photographs take place of the leaders and of the finance ministers, central bank governors, so how the deliberations take place. And I think if you can see from the screen, you are seated in the same manner as has been designed for you, and the format has been put for you. So if you could go to the next slide. And like you said, Shailya and I explained it to you yesterday, that we'll be taking you through the G20 education working group meeting discussion format. And there are 4 priority areas under India's presidency. One is ensuring universal foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning. Second is making tech-enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative, and collaborative at entry level. Priority area 3 is the building capacities and promoting lifelong learning in the context of the future of work. And 4 is strengthening research and innovation through richer collaboration and partnerships. I am told that you all received the communique, the draft declaration yesterday, and that you all are aware of the several country positions, and you will be negotiating it today. So you are now very familiar with these India's priorities under the education working group. Next slide, please. MOG G20, the overall theme that we are, for the events in the Bhubaneswar that we are doing, the precursor events, the Jan Bhagidari events that started from Utkal Divas, which is also known as Odisha Day, from the 1st of April in the entire state of Odisha. And MOG G20 is what we have tried to replicate today as a part of the Jan Bhagidari event, Jan Bhagidari, to raise awareness of G20. And the theme that we are following for the education working group meetings as well as the precursor events is the future of work, Industry 4.0, innovation, and 21st century skills. So if we could go a little further, please. Future of work is going to change. Everybody knows that future of work is going to change, and it is rapidly evolving. So now you have ChatGPT, which came in. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Twitter. When we were growing up, there was nothing like this. Now you all are so tech savvy, and especially after COVID, things have changed so drastically. We never thought that we could meet virtually. Like I said yesterday, you would do your classes virtually. You would not go to school, but you would kind of give your exams also virtually. So this is all technology, and this technology is basically leading to a rapid disruption, all across the world, how jobs are going to change, how new jobs are going to come up. And if we don't change and evolve ourselves, and we don't skill, reskill, and upskill continuously, then we are going to definitely miss the bus. So that's the idea of the whole theme of the future of work. And artificial intelligence, the AR, VR technology, automation, machine learning, the rise of electronics, it's all going to take us, in future, and we don't even know how fast our lives have become already, right? So, when you wake up now, the first thing that you do is you look at your mobile phone, and this was unthinkable when we were growing up because there was no mobile phone. But if you don't change with time, then of course, there is a gap that comes up. If you could go to the next slide. Devansh, would you also like to talk, because it is your area of discussion under the Youth 20? So you're all familiar with Devansh, and I would also like him to add on to this area, because I think he's leading it from the chair of the Youth 20.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So when we talk about the future of work, there are 5 priority areas sort of that have been shortlisted for you. The first one talks about unlearn, relearn, and reskill. So the entire idea is, like I reiterate what I said yesterday, we're long past those times where we used to focus on one skill, excel in them, and then live out our entire career in that particular field. Today's industry, today's economy has become extremely diverse, which requires you to constantly keep updating yourself with new skills, with new ideas, with new innovations. So how can you prepare your workforce for the same? How can a country prepare itself for challenges that are unknown? So unlearn, relearn, and reskill is something that will have to continuously go ahead. The second priority area that we have shortlisted is cross-border innovation, and I cannot think of a better example than Tech Maitri that India is doing at this moment. How many of you all have heard of Vaccine Maitri? Vaccine, when we gave out vaccines to different nations. When COVID struck, India was one of the only nations that sent out vaccines, COVID vaccines, to other nations to help protect their populations as well. Following up on those lines, India is doing Tech Maitri, where the digital payment system that we all use, the UPI system, has, there's a stack that is used to create it, the India stack, that has been shared with all other nations. Among G20, Singapore is one of the G20 partner nations that is using it to develop its own digital finance system. So what I mean here is, cross-border collaborations are very important. It is only then the world will be able to grow, and that is something that we need to encourage. We cannot function like countries who want to keep their own technology within their own borders and not share it with anyone. So that is something that we want to encourage. The third theme that we have shortlisted is gig economy. Again, during the pandemic, gig economy boomed. Earlier, gigs were something that were limited to the transport industry. Now, you find them in a variety of fields, from finance to graphic designing, to any single thing that you take. People are taking on freelance work more than ever, and it has resulted into an economy that accumulates to billions of dollars. So how do we bring it into the mainstream and ensure that our gig workers are protected? After that, we have startup ecosystem. India today has become synonymous with the word startup. Every single Indian, the entire idea that Indians are job creators and not job seekers. Today, any global company, any multinational company which functions beyond borders and earns revenue into billions of dollars has an Indian head or an Indian origin head. And that is because that Indians today are the most adaptable population in the world. Today we have the most varied skill set, and we're able to adapt ourselves very quickly. So that is something that a priority area has been set up. And the final point that we have taken up is, how can we integrate our existing industries that don't function on IoT, that don't function on Industry 4.0, and how can we take them towards there? Because a lot of our revenue still comes from those industries. So how can we ensure that they're moving ahead with times as well? So these are some of the 5 sub-themes that we have outlined for future of work. That should be good, ma'am.
Thank you. And now I would request Dr. Shailya Shah, Deputy Secretary in the Ministry of Education, to also tell you about the Education Working Group meetings, and then we begin with our mock G20 deliberations. Over to you, Shailya.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Shailya Shah. I'm Deputy Secretary in Ministry of Education, and I'm in the International Cooperation Division. I'm from the Indian Foreign Service, and as a diplomat, I've got the opportunity to witness some of the negotiations which we do in UN, in G20, in BIMSTEC, and certain other multilateral groupings. And from my experience, I just wanted to share that G20 is a very unique grouping of multilateral nations, where it brings together both developing nations and the developed countries. We don't have any other such multilateral grouping which provides this kind of a bandwidth. G20 countries as a whole contribute 80% to the world GDP. So these are some of the key important countries which are brought together through the platform of G20. And considering the fact that there is so much weightage which this entire grouping brings, it is important that the scope of G20 is expanded to discuss every contemporary challenges and every contemporary topics which we have. which was the reason why in 2018, during the Argentinian presidency, it was felt that education as a social sector should find its place in the G20, and the G20 Education Working Group was born. We have had a series of meetings of the Education Working Group in the past as well. The first one was during the Argentinian presidency in 2018. The next one was during this Saudi Arabian presidency, then the Italian, and the previous year we had the Indonesian presidency, where again we had the Education Working Group meetings, which culminated into a Education Ministers meeting. Similarly, as India has taken over the presidency on 1st of December last year, we have been having the Education Working Group meetings. Our first Education Working Group meeting was held on the 31st of Jan in Chennai. And during that meeting, we deliberated very intensively on making tech-enabled learning more inclusive. All the G20 delegates from the ministries of education of G20 countries participated in that meeting, and they spoke about all the 4 priority areas which you just saw was listed before. And they gave their viewpoints, they gave their country statements. In the second meeting in March, we had it in Amritsar. Again, the Ministry of Education officials from all the G20 countries, international organizations like UNICEF, UNESCO, OECD, plus the 9 invited countries sent their representatives, where again, we deliberated on the country positions. We dived deep into the theme of research, collaboration and innovation within the G20. Now the next round of meetings will be held in Bhubaneswar, in your city. This is happening next week. So just as now you have become the representatives and delegates from all the 20 countries, invited countries, international organizations, you'll see them coming in from the 24th or 25th of April next week. They would come in and participate in the 3rd Education Working Group meeting, where the focus is primarily on building capacities for lifelong learning and future of work, which is what you will be discussing through your mock G20 session as well. And during this 3rd Education Working Group meeting, we are also negotiating the G20 Education Ministers Declaration. The declaration is a document which is adopted by the G20 Education Ministers. And for us, this will happen in the month of June in Pune, where we culminate all our Education Working Group meetings, we collate our observations, we learn from each other's best practices, and we bring out a report and the declaration which is adopted by all the G20 ministers. So today you will also get a feel of what it takes negotiating a document, and in G20, within G20, all the documents are negotiated and passed by consensus. So the mock G20 session is to give an exact idea of what will be the format of the meeting during the 3rd Education Working Group meetings, which will take place later next week in Bhubaneswar. And I wish all the delegates all the best for it. And I hope you get to, through this participation, you get to learn more about the education priorities and the contribution which India has been making to the G20. And I'm also looking forward to some insights and valuable suggestions from your side, which we can take back and incorporate with us as we work ahead towards the G20 working group meetings and the G20 ministerial later. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the entire session.
So all the very best, and like we said, you are the youth power, and now it's all over to you. So 3 cheers to you. Hip hip. Hip hip. Louder. Hip hip. So now over to Devansh, and all the very best. Do we have students from Centurion? Yeah, all of you have arrived, or you haven't registered? Okay, great. So all the very best.
I believe we can start. Just wait for the dignitaries to leave. Namaste and a very good morning to all. Delegates, please take your respective seats. I think there's some confusion there. That's right. So we'll let everybody settle down once.
Have all the delegates taken their respective seats? सबके teammates आ गए ना? I think the chair you can take over now. We're ready.
Before we officially begin with the proceedings, quick note, the medium of communication has to be English, but it will be allowed if you know 1 or 2 lines you want to speak in Odia. That is very well will be taken, no worries on that. Rest all delegates are comfortable, everybody has taken their seats? Okay. Now we begin with the official committee proceedings. Namaste and a very good morning to all. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to the mock G20 being held on the on the sidelines of the third meeting of Education Working Group of G20, which is being held here in the beautiful city of Bhubaneswar, the capital of Odisha, India. As you know, India is hosting the G20 summit for the first time in 2023 under the theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future. This theme reflects our vision of a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable world, which is why we celebrate our diversity and we work together to address our common challenges. Education is one of the key pillars of this vision, as it empowers individuals and societies to achieve their full potential and contribute to the global common good. Education also enables us to adapt to the changing nature of work and the demands of the 21st century. Therefore, we have chosen Future of Work to be the sub-theme for this meeting of the Education Working Group. We believe that future of work requires us to think and reimagine our education and skilling systems to make them more inclusive, equitable, relevant, and quality-oriented. We also need to foster innovation and collaboration across sectors and regions to leverage the opportunities that are being offered by technology and digitalization. We need to equip our learners not only with technical skills, but also life skills, such as critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. In this context, we've identified 4 priority areas for discussion in this meeting. Ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning, making tech-enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative, and collaborative at every level, building capacities, promoting lifelong learning in the context of future of work, strengthening research, promoting innovation through richer collaboration and partnerships. We hope that these discussions will lead to concrete outcomes and recommendations that will help us shape our education policies and practices in the future. We also hope that this meeting will provide for a platform for sharing the best practices and learning from each other's experiences. We're delighted to have with us eminent speakers, stakeholders, and thought leaders from various fields related to education and work. We're also grateful for participation of representatives from international organizations such as UNESCO, OECD, and UNICEF. We look forward to hearing your valuable insights and inputs during this meeting. I wish you all a very fruitful and productive meeting. Thank you. We now begin with the inputs from our partner G20 nations, followed by invitee countries, and finally our observer nations will be processing through an alphabetical order. So I request the delegation of Argentina to start.
Hello.
Just one quick reminder, everybody has 90 seconds on the clock, 1.5 minutes, so please stick to your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Argentine delegation, I would like to thank the Chair for hosting us and to my fellow delegates. Argentina recognizes the importance of education as a catalyst for social and economic development. We believe that education is not only a fundamental human right but also a powerful tool for tackling poverty, inequality, social stigma, and promoting inclusive growth. As we gather here today, we acknowledge that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on the socio-economic status and education systems worldwide. Argentina has made significant progress in expanding access to quality education and training. However, in the face of the dynamics of workspace in the 21st century, Argentina recognizes the urgent need to modifying the education system into a more resilient and adaptive one in order to accelerate foundational literacy and numeracy, that is FLN, prevent any future disruption in the continuity of education in crisis, and enable individuals with the capability and opportunities to lifelong education. We remain committed to working collaboratively with our G20 partners to address the challenges and issues in the field. We look forward to the valuable opinions of our fellow delegates and a productive discussion with them as we strive towards achieving our common goals for education. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to Australia.
Hello.
Thank you, Chair. It is an honor for me to speak on the behalf of the people of Australia. G20 under the presidency of India is a beacon for hope, harmony, peace and stability. Irrevocably, these defining ideas have a direct correlation with the working of the education group. Our key policies in Australia share common grounds with the G20 Communique agenda. We are striving for equity in education, thereby accelerating the progress on SDG4 through initiatives in early childhood education. Australia is making a concerted efforts to improve school teaching and leadership by setting professional standards and promoting professional developments of our teaching and leadership staff. This instills an essence of the lifelong learning that has been mentioned in the Communique as well as the SDG4 agenda. Our new Colombo plan aims at lifting the knowledge of Indo-Pacific region in Australia. We are funding the students to pursue their studies and internship in this region, thereby promoting internationalization at tertiary level and increasing the level of collaboration. We look forward to discussing the Communique in further details with the member countries. Thank you.
We now move on to Brazil.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chairperson and fellow delegates, the Federative Republic of Brazil believes that its foreign policy objectives are based on values and principles in the G20 Charter are upheld universally the regional and global peace of which Brazil is a strong advocate. With its vibrant and emerging economy, strong working tradition and cultural richness, Brazil feels particular about its voice to play a distinct role in contributing to global stability. Through the development of research and studies, UNESCO offers subsidies for the elaboration of public policies, collaborating with the advancement of indicators related to lifelong education quality, learning and literacy in formal, non-formal and informal environments, as well as contributing to the promotion of lifelong learning. UNESCO in Brazil has been in permanent dialogue with public higher education institutions, with universities and other higher education and research institutions. The organization has tried to promote teacher education and mobility, higher educational quality, educational changes and innovations that have become essential due to emerging challenges faced by today's knowledge society. It also works in the direction of integrating new technology and the 21st century skills in teaching to enhance it and making it more inclusive. Thank you.
Delegate. We now move on to Canada.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. It's a privilege and honor to speak for Canada. Through this G20 platform under the presidency of India, the delegation of Canada would like to address today's agenda. Canada is committed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and in particularly SDG 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Canada has identified the unique role of education as a key driver of fair and sustainable development and the need to place education at the center of national as well as global. Spending 5% of the total GDP on education and its advancements, Canada has also taken steps for making education affordable for all in comparison to other developed countries. Addressing the involvement of digital inclusive in education, the Canadian government had initiated digital education even before the COVID times. According to a report, International Review of Research in Open and Distributed Learning on an analysis of digital education in Canada 2017-2019, they mention, report revealed that digital education is evolving in Canada at a decent rate, as are the definitions used for online and blended hybrid, reflecting changing practices. The Canadian government has also established several committees to strengthening the research procedure like the Canada Foundation.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. We move to China.
Thank you, Chair. Hello. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of China, we are now a major overseas investor and pursuing an increasingly assertive foreign and defense policy far beyond East Asia. Our focus area, socio-economic issues such as agriculture, anti-corruption, climate, digital economy, education, employment, energy, environment, health, tourism, trade and investment, research collaboration, industrial automation, hybrid workplace, remote and virtual transaction. Second is fiscal and monetary policy issues such as global economy, infrastructure, final regulation, financial inclusion, international financial architecture and international taxation. Apart from socio-economic and monetary policy issues, we are also coming up with an initiative which can fight against environmental issues like climate change and global warming. As part of G20 member commitment and consult relevant stakeholder communities, dialogue is facilitated through the engagement groups comprising non-government participants from each G20 member. These groups often draft recommendations to the G20 leaders that contributes to the policy making process. Thank you everyone for your attention.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to the European Union.
A warm welcome to all. A warm welcome to all the distinguished leaders. Education is one of the fundamental rights of individuals. It is one of the most important aspects of personal development. And so the European Union focuses on providing high quality, inclusive and accessible education. It focuses on making better use of digital technology for teaching and learning. and improving education through better data analysis and foresight. An incredible program named Erasmus Program for graduate students in its first 20 years supported international exchange opportunities for well over 1.5 million university and college students. A professional scientific development independent European Research Council allocates UE funds for national research projects via framework programs. Similar to India's NEP 2020 initiative, our union has introduced the policy framework ET 2020 with 7 benchmarks to be achieved, which includes increasing mobility between countries and many more. However, beside these all, the main focus of UE is lifelong learning. The European framework has set certain competencies for lifelong learning, which includes communication in mother tongue, communication in foreign language, learning to learn, digital competence, and many more. The European Union acknowledges to collaborate
Thank you,
with
Delegate.
the
Your time is up.
participating countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to France.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. As a education diplomat of France, it's a great honor to address you today and speak about the importance of education in promoting international cooperations and global development. France has a long and proud history of promoting education as a means of fostering social, economic, and cultural progress. We believe that education is not only a basic human rights, but also a powerful tool for promoting peace, stability, and prosperity worldwide. As an education diplomat, my role is to promote exchange knowledge, idea, and best practice between countries to support international efforts to improve access to education and enhance its quality. We believe that every child, regardless where they live or their economic circumstances, deserve the access to high-quality education and equip them with skills and knowledge they needed for a successful life. That is why France supports initiatives such as Global Partnership for Education and UNESCO Education 2030 Agenda, which aim to increase the access to education and improve its quality around the world. Furthermore, we recognize the education is a powerful tool for promoting cross-culture understanding and tolerance and for building bridges between nations. We promote students and teachers exchange, supporting international research
Thank you,
collaborations.
Delegate. Your time is up. We now move on to Germany.
Good morning, delegates. We are here to represent the German delegation. First of all, I would like to thank India for their hospitality and warm welcome. Germany's education policy focuses on the importance of education for sustainable economic growth and social development. We place a high value on education for sustainable economic growth and initiatives both domestically and internationally. Education in Germany is partially independent and diverse, which provides young people with the skills and the knowledge needed to succeed. Germany's dual vocational education system combines classroom instruction with on-the-job training. On the topic of foundational literacy, we strongly support it as we believe a person should be properly literate in proper manner, which is mostly controlled by our state governments. Importance of STEM education in preparing students of the demands of modern economy. Our country has a strong focus on math and science education and is known for its world-class universities in these fields. In the recent times of COVID-19, we have realized how important digital education is going to be in future, such as online learning, blended learning, etc. We are trying our best to make it accessible and affordable to every age group in order to pursue enhanced learning. We think that the future of work is becoming globalized, drawing us close to one another. This puts another responsibility on us to provide high standard of education to our people with a sense of urgency. At last, Germany is committed to working with other countries
Thank
to
you, Delegate.
promote
Your time is up.
global educational goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We now hear from the host country and the presidency of G20, India.
The distinguished guests from G20 and invited countries, the representatives of UNESCO, UNICEF and OECD, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from India. Namaste. Excellencies, this year under Indian presidency of G20, we are presenting our educational agendas. Our first agenda is foundational literacy and numeracy. As it is said that for a child to read and learn, it is necessary that in the beginning he should learn to read. And therefore, India's national education policy prioritizes this agenda. In 2021, the Educational Ministry launched the Nippon Bharat Mission for ensuring that every child in the country necessarily attains foundational literacy by the end of third grade by the year 2026-27. Excellencies, our second agenda is inclusive tech-enabled learning. Under the PME Vidya initiative, we are effectively employed digital platforms and tools such as Diksha, e-Pathshala, and Swam Prabha TV with more than 260 educational TV channels. Our third agenda is building capacities and promoting lifelong learning. Our government has launched several initiatives such as National Skill Development Mission, Skill India and Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana and Sakshar Bharat program to import skills and training to millions of people across the country. Our fourth and last agenda is promoting research and innovation through rich collaboration. Under the initiative of Global Initiative for Academic Network and Imprint program to foster collaboration, India has been sharing its developmental experiences and capacity building expertise with over 160 countries through ITEC.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
Your time is up. We now move to Indonesia.
Gratitude to the chair for the recognition. Selamat siang everybody means good day everybody. Education is the creation of a sound mind in a sound body. It develops their knowledge, especially their mind, so that they might be able to enjoy the contemplation of supreme truth, goodness and beauty, which is the perfect happiness we Indonesian people who prioritize education and are the fourth largest in education system in the world think about. If we talk about the fundamental literacy and numeracy, then obviously we won't hesitate to say Indonesia is still improving slowly and steadily. We are trying to make the young minds of our country learn things not just through mere basic knowledge but as a mind of understanding. We would like to share our experience of our RISE program that aims to improve the quality to education to our primary children in FNL. Now coming to the point of tech in education, our students are among the world's highest user of technology in education and they use technology in classroom more than many other countries. Now coming to the third point of lifelong learning and the future of work, which means learning to learn. Indonesia is retraining its workforce through a comprehensive adult digital learning program that has increased salaries and improved financial inclusion. Due to God's grace, we managed to add 14 million jobs during the pandemic, which wasn't that much able to be done by other countries.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up. We now move to Italy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, respected Chairperson, for the invitation. Italy identifies the need of education and its importance for global growth. Italian government has been working on a 5-sector model to induce quality education among the citizens of the country. Italy has implemented programs aimed at promoting cultural diversity in schools, including initiatives of support immigrants and refugee students. These programs include language support classes, intercultural education, and initiatives to promote social integration and reduce discrimination in schools. Italian government has been investing in early childhood education programs to provide quality education for young children, including preschool education for children aged 3 to 6. These programs are aimed to provide solid foundation for children's development and learning, especially for those of disadvantaged backgrounds. implementing the compact of development that would rely on the investment of the resources released by debt relief in health and education within the framework of poverty reduction strategy papers. Italy has been investing in vocal and technical education to provide students with practical skills, prepare them for job market. This includes offering vocational and technical courses in school, promoting apprenticeships and collaborating with local industries to provide real world-leading opportunities. In Italian preschools, schools and daycare, common aspects of children development are monitored: language and literacy skills, numeracy, socio-economic skills, motor development, and audacity. And so science is monitored along with the health development and creative skills in the country. Italy has seen a growth from 20.6% to 26.9% in preschool schooling education. Italy has been promoting the use of technology in education, including to provide access to digital resources, tools, training, and teachers to students. This includes efforts to integrate digital skills and digital literacy in the curriculum of promoting e-learning and online education, and has also seen a growth in the tertiary education attainment from 20.8.
Your time is up. We now move to Japan.
Thank you. Esteemed Chairperson, Excellence of the G20 members countries, respected dignitaries from guest countries and international organizations, I extend my regards to all of you, and I would like to congratulate India for their G20 presidency and extend gratitude for their warm hospitality. As we gather to discuss education, I want to underline the importance of this topic for our society and the rest of the world. As Article 26 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to education, and Japan education system is one of the top performers among the both youth and adult population, and over 95% of the Japanese are literate. Also, we rank 24th position in Global Education Index. As our future is dependent on a solid educational foundation, through education we educate our citizens with the knowledge and skills they need to compete in a rapidly changing global economy, to confront the challenges of the 21st century and to make the world a better place for all. We see the need of investing in education at the level as Japan continues to innovate and expand in a wide range of industries from the elementary school to college and beyond. We must ensure that our educational system provides students with the resources they need to succeed. We have a long history in Japan prioritizing peoples and honoring education. We are quite proud of the numerous bright individuals generated by our school system. However, we recognize that there is always room for the improvement, and we are committed to continue to innovate and adapt educational system to meet the demands of a challenging world. During our time together, I hope to have good discussion and share ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to Mexico.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the recognition. The Delegate of United Mexican States would like to bring to everyone's attention that the Education Working Group of the G20 is endorsing the SDG 4 as stated by the UN 2030 SDG agenda, which ensures inclusive and equitable quality education and promotes lifelong learning opportunities, something that Mexico is committed to do. With several goals taken in order to implement SDG 4, like prioritized inclusive education, addressing the education gap, implementing the programs like National Program for Science Coexistence and indigenous education support, Mexico has been updating its curricula to align with the 21st century skills that use technology. Right from primary level education to ensuring lifelong learning, Mexico has implemented several programs, including National Strategy for the Improvement of Early Education, ENPI, inclusion programs, encyclopedia, PND, in order to prepare our workforce for the future of work. Some steps that we've taken is to strengthen education and training, promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, fostering international cooperation, sharing best knowledge in AI, robotics, and other emerging technologies, enhancing digital skills, etc.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
We now move to Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Chair.
South Korea has always been committed to promoting education as a fundamental right and a key driver of holistic development. Therefore, we believe that every child, regardless of their background, should have access to basic education, including children between the ages of 3 to 9 years old. According to the OECD's Program for International Student Assessment, South Korean students display a high level of academic achievement in reading, mathematics, and science. South Korea's educational objectives are focused on improving basic abilities, skills, and promoting healthy living. The 6:3:3:4 ladder structure denotes primary education, junior and senior secondary education, and university education. Korea's high educational attainment levels are but one sign of the country's singular transformation and meteoric economic rise. Government-funded research institutes are dedicated towards development of advanced technologies, fourth industrial revolution, including AI, IoT, and new commercial innovations. Korea currently pursues an internationalization strategy that seeks to increase the number of international students in the country to 2 million. Therefore, South Korea believes that a more flexible and exploratory education system would be beneficial, where students are exposed to various fields through vocational training, allowing them to gain a deeper understanding and help in their SWOT analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move on to Russia.
Thank you, Chair. Is it audible? Yeah. Thank you, Chair. We would love to start by thanking India for being such an amazing host and inspiring us with their ideology of honoring guests. Russia feels immense pride in being under India's hospitality. Honorable Chair, Russia has constantly affirmed that it will uphold the principles that everyone has a right to an education going forward. Every aspect of society is impacted by the educational system. By investing in education, we enable our people to realize their full potential for development and innovation. Russia has ensured that the necessary steps to assist our citizens in obtaining a proper education were done as early as in 1990s, with the passage of Article 4 of the Russian Constitution, which provides equal and free preschooling for every child between the age of 6 and 15. And when we say education for all, we actually mean it. We mean it. In 2021, 94% and 99.7% respectively of women were literate in primary and secondary educations. Additionally, as of 2020, Russia's school dropout rate, which stood at 0.16%, had drastically decreased. Furthermore, Russia has made sure that its educational system is adaptable enough to take into account changing circumstances. Even at the onset of present hostilities, Russia took measures to prevent significant damage to its educational system. We took the necessary step to ensure the fortification. We have made sure that the digital learning is a choice for everyone, despite Russia's more extensive topography and challenges in reaching out to all the remote and less accessible locations.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
We now move to Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Chair, for the mention. A very warm good morning to all the worthy delegates present over here. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia wants to address today's agenda through this G20 forum under India's presidency. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia reaffirmed the right to education is a human right, imparting education to every Saudi citizen at minimal or no cost. Government spends 8.8% of its GDP, which is the second largest governmental spending on education, nearly double the global average of 4.6%. Saudi Arabia is focusing on providing sensory development, social and collaborative skills. World Bank team reviewed Back to School information platform, providing one-stop shop for students, parents and teachers for successful e-learning. Madrasati Education, which means My School, platform made the tech-enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative and collaborative at every level. Over the years, Saudi Arabia has excelled in strengthening research, promoting innovation through richer collaboration. In 2022 edition of academic ranking of world universities includes 7 Saudi higher education institutions among world top 1,000 universities, up from 4 in 2019. The delegate of Saudi Arabia calls on the G20 summit's theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future to bring all 20 countries along with the guest countries together and address the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to South Africa.
I humbly express my thanks to Chair. Habari ja asube. Good morning all.
South Africa has made great stride in realizing the right to education, rapidly building an efficient, accessible and quality education system for children and adolescents. South Africa Department focusing on improving school infrastructure, taking over early childhood department, ECD function from the social department sector and providing nutritious meal for learning through the Nation School Nutrition Program NSNP. Facilitate the increase in supply of quality teachers while preparing serving teachers to teach new subjects that will prepare learner for changing world. Providing high quality support material for learning and teacher. The Department of South Africa is committed to improving the physical infrastructure and environment at every public school in the basic education sector. Some are the recommendation of South Africa to improve South Africa policy, economics and education system for everyone. When complaining recommendation for education, South Africa mainly focus on the influencing learning, which include dealing with violence in school, low moral values, high dropout rate, late coming, absenteeism and many more. Recommendation in influencing teacher will include aspect as the impact OB and C25, poor result in literacy and numeracy, underperformance of education, lack efficiency.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is
much.
up. We now move on to Turkey.
Thank you, Chair. I, on behalf of Turkey, extend very warm regards to all the esteemed delegates and distinguished guests. Today, we are truly discussing the future of all the member countries as education is a key driver for sustainable development and directly affects the GDP, income and quality of life of the country mates. The main purpose of the 2023 education vision of Turkey is to raise science-loving, skilled and ethical individuals who take an interest in culture and are willing to use present and future skills for the well-being of humanity, which strikes with the SDG 4. The ongoing COVID-19 and recent earthquake in Turkey have exposed the vulnerabilities of our education system and highlighted the urgent need for innovative solutions. As we move towards recovery and building back better, we must ensure that no one is left behind in accessing quality education. That is inclusiveness. Thus, it is very crucial that we as global leaders prioritize and invest in education. In conclusion, I look forward to fruitful discussions and collaborations with all of you to advance our collective goal of ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move on to the United Kingdom.
Good morning, delegates and respected Chair. The United Kingdom has a long-standing tradition of valuing education and we are considered to be one of the most educated countries in the world. The G20's education group is dedicated to enhancing educational standards, encouraging skills development and broadening access to education, especially for the unprivileged groups. Since the G20 Education Working Group was established in 2010, the UK has taken a leading role in it. Our government is committed to provide a high-quality education system that is accessible to all students regardless of their background and their ability. The UK has a decentralized education system, which means that each of the 4 countries that make up the UK, that is England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, has its own education system and policies. Our government provides funding for research development in education and there is a strong emphasis on promoting STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. The UK supports efforts that encourage the development of STEM abilities and is aware of the value of STEM education, is preparing students for the job in the future. This includes encouraging the use of technology to improve STEM education and supporting projects that can offer students chances for STEM education. Our government also supports
Thank you, Delegate.
initiative.
Your time
Thank
is
you,
up.
sir.
We now move to the United States of America.
The United States
believes that access to education is a very basic human right and a pivotal tool for inclusive and sustainable economic recovery. We welcome the outcome of the Transforming Education Summit. We have and will act in solidarity, in particular with developing countries, to rebuild more resilient, tech-enabled, accessible and effective education systems. In the context of reaffirming the importance of ESD and our commitment to SDG 4, it is imperative to promote lifelong learning at all levels amidst the change of nature of work. US serves millions of adult learners each year through its AEFLA program under Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. US recognizes that AI will undoubtedly have a deep, divisive impact on the jobs of tomorrow, and many service-focused jobs in the multiple industries will face high susceptibility to automation. It thus becomes important for us to develop smart, targeted capacity-building strategies to address future job displacement based on the research into differential impact of automation by sector, region, and demographic group on a global scale. With reference to US Civil Rights Act of 1964, IDEA, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, US intends to be more inclusive towards people with disabilities at the workplace and educational centers and combat all forms of discrimination against them. US intends to promote digital tools and platforms for researchers to collaborate and share their findings with a special global skill emphasis on edtech startups, teacher professional development, and research grants to foster innovation in education. Thus, we must prioritize early childhood education, strengthen our primary and secondary education systems, provide targeted interventions for struggling students, promote a culture of reading and numeracy in our communities, and leverage technology to enhance learning.
Thank you, Delegate. We've now heard from all our partner G20 nations. We will now be hearing from the special invitees. We begin with Bangladesh.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Over the past decade, Bangladesh has made remarkable progress in expanding access education. With 98% of children of primary school age enrolled in school, the country has achieved near universal primary enrollment as well as gender parity in equal access to education. In Bangladesh, all the primary education is free and the government provides the textbooks. More than 4.43 million children aged 6 to 15 years are not in school, and around 42 million people, about 26% of the population, is still illiterate. The education rate of Bangladesh is 74.91%. The cause of illiteracy in Bangladesh because the rate of illiteracy among the poor is very high. The main cause is of being meritorious. The children of poor families cannot study. Many poor students, due to want of money, cannot achieve higher education. If Bangladesh is to achieve its vision of becoming a middle-income country, it cannot afford to have millions of children drop out of education or leave school without basic literacy and skills. This is why UNICEF is working with the government of Bangladesh to build a robot education system which is exclusively relevant and accessible. UNICEF is also working to improve the rate of, at which children complete secondary education so that they can keep learning by equipping them with blended education opportunity, skills, and smart technology. UNICEF and partners are focusing on 3 points: early learning, quality, inclusive primary education, and a skill for adolescents.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up. We now move to Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. Sabail Khair. Good morning to all the dignitaries from all the countries gathered here in this M20 G20 event 2023. I feel heartily welcome becoming the dignitary of Egypt, where I feel great that even my country is not a member of G20, but it has still excelled in some of its field to be the guest member of this event. Now, highlighting my country's education status, I would say that Egypt is well positioned in the global education landscape with a strong commitment to improving its education system and producing skilled graduates who can contribute to its economic and social development. Egypt has a large and well-established education system with over 23 million students enrolled in pre-primary to tertiary education. The country has a literacy rate of around 76%, with the majority of the population being able to read and write. One of the main aims of Egypt's education system is to provide students with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed in the modern world. The government has invested heavily in improving the quality of education by upgrading school facilities, improving the curriculum, and enhancing the training and professional development of teachers. Egypt has also launched several initiatives to increase access to education, particularly in remote and underprivileged areas. Overall, Egypt's aim on education is to provide all citizens with access to high-quality education that prepares them for the challenges of the 21st century and contributes to the country's social and economic development.
Thank you,
Egypt has a
Delegate. Your time is up.
Thank you so much.
We move to the country of Mauritius.
Bonsoir everyone. Don't confuse the bonsoir with bonjour as it is the Creole language of our country, Mauritius. A very warm yet euphorical greetings for the day to all the ladies, gentlemen, chair and to all my solicitous delegates from around the world. First of all, I would like to thank our respected chair for giving the most auspicious chance to represent my country in this respected event. As the delegate of Mauritius, I would like everyone to know the recent developments of our country after the post-COVID conditions. As we all know, Mauritius is a small island nation located in the Indian Ocean, east of Madagascar. So the aspect we're going to talk about first is the economy. Mauritius is ranked 63rd in the world in terms of GDP per capita according to IMF 2021. It is ranked 20th in the world in the ease of doing business according to World Bank 2020. In the World Bank's ease of doing business report for 2020, Mauritius ranked 13 out of 190 countries. The second aspect we're going to talk about is education. Mauritius has a literacy rate of 91.3% as according to UNESCO 2021. The country is ranked 66th in the world in the Human Development Index according to UNDP 2020. The country has several university and higher education institutions including the University of Mauritius and the Mauritius Institute of Education. After that we're going to talk about environment. Mauritius is ranked 66th in the Environmental Performance Index according to EPI 2020. The country has made significant progress in protecting its biodiversity and natural resources. Now we're going to talk about health. Mauritius has a life expectancy of 75.6 years according to WHO 2021. The country has a well-developed healthcare system with both public and private healthcare facilities.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up.
Thank you.
We now move to Netherlands.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, iedereen. Good morning, everyone, and I am honored to stand before you today as the delegate of the Netherlands to discuss an issue that lies at the very heart of human development, that is foundation of literacy. We all know that literacy is the foundation of all education and education is the cornerstone of human progress. Yet literacy remains a major challenge in many parts of the world. According to UNESCO, there are still more than 750 million adults worldwide who lacks basic literacy skills and near about 2/3 of them are women. The Ministry of Education, Culture and Science works to create a smart, skilled and creative environment in the Netherlands. Its mission is to ensure that everyone gets a good education and is prepared for responsibility and independence. The ministry also wants people to enjoy the arts and aims to create a right condition for teachers, artists and researchers to do their work. The Netherlands is committed to addressing this global challenge through research collaboration, as we believe that the only way to achieve sustainable progress in literacy is by working together across borders and disciplines. Research collaboration is crucial for few reasons, like it allows us to better understand the complex factors that contribute to low literacy rate, such as poverty, gender inequality, and lack of access to education. Secondly, research collaboration enables us to share best practices and learn from each other's success and failures. And finally, the most important, it helps us
Thank
to
you,
build.
Delegate. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
We now move to Nigeria.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair, for inviting Nigeria to the G20 forum. The current educational system in Nigeria was adopted in 2008, which follows the 9:3:4 ratio, where 9 years is the basic education, and 3 years the senior secondary school education, 4 years of tertiary education. According to the World Economic Forum in 2017, Nigeria ranked 124th out of 137 countries in terms of primary education. Nigeria was also missing among top 10 African countries with best education. Even though primary education is officially free and compulsory, about 10.5 million of the country's children aged 5 to 14 years are not in school. Advancement in the field of education in Nigeria can bring about economic well-being, enhanced health, encourage self-reliance and entrepreneurships, and help families build better lives and lift their children out of poverty. This can be done by increasing funding to education sector by both the government and private sector job, vocational and technical centers, which is in dire need for quality vocational and technical centers across the country, and also equal opportunity among the citizens, which also includes new topics in curricula, which would help in the nation to produce talented and skilled graduates who will be able to contribute to the development of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to Oman.
A very good morning, every fellow dignitaries and delegates. I speak to you as a delegate of invited country Oman. Oman and India have shared cultural, social, and economic ties that go back to 5,000 years, creating a very special relationship founded on mutual respect beyond comprehension. To speak about Oman's education stature and structures alongside its policies, Oman commits to meet the quality education criteria and seeks continuously to plan and conduct educational projects that take into consideration the economic, social, scientific, and technological developments, and then adapt these developments to its national education philosophy, goals, and policies. The country strives to disseminate education among people, offer it for free, combat illiteracy, and build schools, institutions, colleges, and universities under the supervision of the government and in accordance with the law. Future vision for Oman's economy 2022 is to disseminate, encourage, and care for knowledge and education development by finding its appropriate environment, give priority to the basic education, and enable it to everyone through an efficient system that provides opportunities for both citizens and residents. The ministry is striving to make schools to be a center of professional development and understands the importance of its training professionals to deliver quality teaching and training, particularly to understand the role of teachers in translating the philosophy and goals of Ministry of Education into reality through their knowledge, skills, and educational experience. We look forward to a fruitful educational discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to the Delegate of Singapore. We move to the Delegate of Spain.
I'm very thankful to India for inviting us in this meeting. Dear delegates of G20, it is my great pleasure to address this esteemed gathering on behalf of the Kingdom of Spain as we embark upon discussion pertaining to one of the most critical areas of focus for the G20 education. The quality of education in Spain is relatively high, having reading literacy higher than OECD average. Furthermore, the students can expect to go through nearly 18 years of education between the age of 5 and 39. Spanish education system comprises 4 stages: infant schools, primary schools, obligatory secondary education, university education, along with religious, boarding, and method schools. There are also 281 international schools in Spain located in different cities. We look forward to collaborating with India and all member nations to develop concrete proposals and action plans that will address the pressing challenges this system faces. We should learn from India that how a diversified nation is approaching towards its goal by evolving education system through its policies promoting digitalization and training administration. Learning from this, the Spanish government has taken steps to improve the methodology by investing in new technologies and promoting the use of digital tools. In conclusion, Spain is committed to working with all member nations to achieve our common goals in education, and we believe that by working together and collaboration, we can create a world where it is accessible, equitable, and of the highest quality for all age groups. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to UAE.
Thank you, sir. A very hearty good morning to one and all. UAE is a country in Western Asia and is located at the eastern end of Arabic Peninsula. Its motto is compulsory education for all. The UAE government issued the Federal Law number 11 of 1972 concerning education. The law obligates the parents or the legal guardian to send their children to school. Its current literacy rate is 98.13%. Our vision and strategy for education is to build and achieve the highest scientific and professional education standards to serve the future generations. The purpose of education is to create an inclusive and prosperous society. Mission of UAE under the Ministry of Education, we have objectives to improve relevance and quality of education, to enhance adult literacy and lifelong learning, to improve access and sustainability life of education, to strengthen youth development and program services. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We're now done with our invitee countries and we move on to the observer organizations present here. We begin with OECD.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. The delegate of the OECD would first and foremost like to thank India for hosting the G20 conference. The OECD has always been an active partner to the G20 and contributes to all stages of preparation of G20 summits. The OECD Sherpa unit also supervises the Sherpa working group of the G20. The COVID pandemic of 2020 has shown us how digital technologies are transforming our economies and seem to offer a vast potential to enhance the productivity of firms. Policies have a key role to play to promote an efficient and inclusive digital transformation by ensuring that the necessary complementary factors are in place. This involves a range of priorities such as upgrading skills by enhancing initial education, ensuring adequate access to high-speed internet, promoting an efficient reallocation of labor and capital across and within firms, and many more. However, education is not just limited to technical education. The OECD Center for Skills provides policy advice and analytical insights about the impact of mega trends such as digitalization, globalization, aging, and migration on labor market needs, and how this impacts the demand for skills. In particular, it works with countries to improve the governance and the effective design of lifelong learning systems that are responsive to changing labor market needs. Given that skills policies...
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up.
Thank you.
We now move on to UNICEF.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone present over here. So the motto of UNICEF is for every child. As UNICEF Universal everywhere and embodies the organization's mission to give greatest priority to the most disadvantaged children. G20 in recent years, particularly most pandemic, has become a forum that goes beyond advocating policies to taking action. Some important milestones had been reached through G20 discussions, such as change in international health, regulation, genetic pooling of viral markers so that genetic typing could be done, and creation of the pandemic fund. So if we talk about particularly in ensuring that women and children were not forgotten during policy making and reviewing the policy of background papers, UNICEF supported programs in 155 countries, operated in multiple sectors, and its learning on connections between sectors very important. In pharmaceutical, vaccines, and biologicals were high in terms of volume and standards. Children will lead the societies and economics of the future, and each dollar invested in them has longer to accrue returns than spending money on any other age group. Investing in optimal child development leads to the improvement, health and educational outcomes, better employment opportunities in the future, and as a result, it is at the heart of the inclusive economic growth. Each child is unique and each should be supported to reach their full potential.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you.
Your time is up. We now move to UNESCO.
Thank you, Chair. Hello. Thank you, Chair. I am happy to share UNESCO's thought with you. We are working on several surveys from each corner of world and notice down some points. Also, we are arranging several programs to spread awareness regarding peace and security through the education and world. As the world progress, there are improvements in several fields with the help of technology. One of the example is digital learning. It has a huge contribution in education field, especially in a COVID period. But the value of schooling is unique, and school is the base of foundation for a youth development. So we must ensure that digital learning cannot replace the school learning. Also, the scientific approach, we want to increase the scientific approach from the school level to promote the science field and technology also. We will continue to work together to promote peace and security through international cooperation for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. With this, we come to an end of the first session where we've heard from all the countries, the G20 partner nations, from our special invitee countries and the organizations present here on their inputs on the theme. We now move on to the draft communique that has been presented. Can we have the draft communique up on the screen? So while the draft communique is being put up on the screen, pointers, we already have suggestions received from various nations that have been highlighted onto the communique. So please please present the input as and when your nation's input comes. Apart from that, as we go on through the entire communique, if there are any additional inputs that the country country or partners or invitees wish to present, they will be entertained as well. All delegates have documents in their hand. I will be reading out the communique. As we reach points where there are countries that have presented inputs, I will be asking the country to present the input. In places where you wish to present an input, please raise your placard. The chair will recognize you. We now begin with the mock G20 declaration, Siksha Anusandhan. We come to the preamble. The G20 education ministers met in Pune, India on 22nd June 2023 under the Indian G20 presidency. The meeting was attended by G20 members, invited countries and international organizations and was chaired by the Indian Minister of Education. During the meeting, ministers discussed the G20 education agenda under India's presidency, namely A. Ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, (FLN), especially in the context of blended learning. B. Making tech-enabled learning more inclusive, qualitative and collaborative at every level. C. Building capacities, promoting lifelong learning in the context of future of work. And D. Strengthening research, promoting innovation through richer collaboration. The ministers also welcomed the report and compendium on education strategies in 28 countries, detailing educational seminar, exhibition and best practices. We reiterate our commitment to take collective and individual action to accelerate progress on achieving sustainable development goal, focusing. There is a comment from Japan here. I would request the delegation of Japan to elaborate. The Japanese delegation, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Japan's education system is one of the top performers among both youth and the adult population, but significant economic and socio-demographic challenges question the sustainability of this successful model. As a response, Japan has developed the third basic plan for the promotion of education, which focuses on Japan's education policy on how to support individuals to prepare for 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, in particular, curriculum design, teacher education, school organization, financial support for non-mandatory stages of education, and lifelong learning are all part of the reform package Japan has put in place to embrace the future. The Education Policy Review of Japan assesses the strengths and challenges of the current reform agenda in Japan and makes recommendations with regard to the introduction of the new curriculum, the sustainability of holistic education, and the development of lifelong learning. In this context, Japan proposes the school community partnership as a mandatory part to be included in the curriculum. Thank you.
Delegates, I believe there is some confusion. What I meant when I said was there are already, if you have the draft communique in your hand, there are already pointers made there where your country's suggestions are already present. You have to present those suggestions. If there are any other inputs apart from this, let me know at which point or on which line, and we will take that up for discussion accordingly. But right now we are considering the suggestions that are already present in the draft communique. I can't see your placard. Thank you. Yes, Delegate of Canada. Mike.
Hello. So if we have a suggestion that we want to present, will we present while the discussion of the clause or after it?
After it.
After the whole discussion?
No. I will take inputs and comments on each suggestion after the country is done presenting it.
Okay. After
So if Japan says that it wants to add SDG 4 on education, once they're done presenting it, I will open the floor. If there is any country that wants to respond, or if it believes that it should not be added, if there's a stand like that, you may present it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Delegate of Japan, you have the floor for 60 seconds for the point that has to be placed. What is the confusion?
So we have proposals regarding different issues other than this sustainable development goals. So
That is correct. You may present them at a later point of time, but as the flow of the communique dictates it, the first point has been placed forth by Japan, that is adding SDG 4 on education, adding declaration and statement, and adding global sustainable development. I just request you to table that amendment on the floor so we can have a discussion on that.
if you want. To achieve the global sustainable development, the Minister of Education of Japan is working for the 3 goals. That is to create a low carbon society, to cut greenhouse gases emissions by 80% by 2050, a sound material cycle society based on 3 R's, and the society in harmony with the nature based on the conservation of the biodiversity.
Delegate of Japan,
Thanks.
currently we're on paragraph 3 of the preamble of the draft communique. In that, on the second line, there is an amendment from the country of Japan. I would like you to read that amendment only. Yes.
So I am supposed to read that paragraph, sir?
Blue box. You're supposed to read the blue box on the side, where it says Japan add. So the delegate of Japan wishes to add, and the rest of the thing.
Thank you, Chair. The delegates of Japan wishes to add the Sustainable Development Goals on education. It also urges to add the declaration and statements and global sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. Any countries wishing to contest or support this amendment? Yes, delegate of Australia.
Thank you, Chair. And as the SDG 4 itself aims that education for all is the aim of Sustainable Development Goals. So, what is the need of adding the term on education?
Delegate of Japan, do you wish to respond?
I would like to speak to the answer to the delegate of Australia. Their question is why we should include education when we are talking about sustainable development goals, because education forms the foundational basis for all other key priorities. So without education, yes?
Continue.
Without education, we believe there is nothing we can achieve as mentioned in our sustainable development goals. So education is the foundational basis. We cannot ignore education.
Yes, Delegate of Australia.
Actually, my point was the Sustainable Development Goal 4 itself aims that the education should be available to all equally. So my point is the aim of the goal itself is education for all. So why we should include the term on education?
It's a valid point. Delegate of United States of America.
Hello. The delegate of United States of America would like to point out that SDG 4 has several outcome targets, and the outcome 4.1 universal primary and outcome 4.3 equal access to technical vocation or vocational and higher education, 4.4 relevant skills for decent work, 4.5 gender equality and inclusion. These three are not related to education. So we have to mention that what the delegate of Japan is suggesting.
Very well. Thank you, Delegate. Is there anyone that wishes to contest this point? Seeing none, the presidency, would you be open to accepting this amendment? Once again, please raise your placard so I can see the nation that you represent. The delegate of European Union, yes.
So the full title of SDG 4 is Ensure Inclusive and Equitable Quality Education and Promote Lifelong Learning Opportunities for All. So if that is the full title of SDG 4, I don't see the point of including on education again throughout the process.
Same point presented by the delegate of Argentina. Delegate of Japan, would you be willing to take back the amendment, or is there something else you wish to say?
For this instance, we would like to hold back the global sustainable development, especially on the education term. We will be discussing further. Thank you.
You take back the recommendation, or you want to discuss the recommendation further?
So we need some time to discuss, and then we
Discuss internally.
Yes.
Okay, so the recommendation is being taken back for now.
Yes, for now, for the instance.
We move forward. That recommendation has been struck now. We move forward. We move forward. Focusing on leaving no one behind and gender equality, providing equitable access to safe and qualitative learning environment in classrooms and communities. Yes, Delegate of Canada.
So the delegate of The delegate of Canada would like to amend the first clause. I quote, the first clause states that, I quote, focusing on leaving no one behind and gender equality. I unquote. When we have already mentioned that we are leaving no one behind, we should focus more on gender neutrality rather than gender equality. So I would like gender equality to be replaced by gender neutrality.
Very well. Very well. Is there any nation that wishes to contest the amendment put forth by the delegate of Canada? Delegate of European Union.
Hello, right. So we are actually, when we are saying that, when the title says that leave no one behind, we are actually talking about accommodating and tolerating everyone's differences and not just ignoring them and looking past them. So when we say that when the clause begins with gender neutrality, we tend to not accommodate the specific needs of all the genders. We cannot oversee that. So I think it should remain equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Australia, followed by Delegate of Russia. One second. Let me just. Delegate of Australia, followed by Delegate of Russia.
We support the statement.
Just give me a minute. Followed by Delegate of USA, followed by Delegate of Canada. Delegate of Australia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
We support the statement put forward by the delegate of European Union. We think that women are already disadvantaged when it comes to education, and gender neutrality would put us back even more. Therefore, gender neutrality term should not be used, and we should still continue receiving the reservations we have to promote women in education and other socio-economic disadvantaged groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now, Delegate of Russia, you now have the floor for 60 seconds.
So, Delegate of Russia would love to raise the concern that right now when we speak about gender neutrality, are we only talking about men and women? Because in our current society, we have more gender representations than just men and women. So, what about them?
Very well, Delegate. Thank you. Delegate of USA.
Okay, so given the fact that we are talking about gender neutrality, are we dismissing the fact that there still exists gender inequality in the society, that men and women are not given the same opportunities and are not given the same forum? So I would like to put forward the fact that gender equality along with gender neutrality should be mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Canada, you have 60 seconds on the floor.
Hello. So I am in support of the delegate of Russia. As mentioned, there are transgender communities who are not represented. The representation of transgender community is far worse than representation of women. So I think they should be given special status. So I am with the recommendation of the delegation of USA, we should include both gender neutrality and gender equality.
Very well, Delegate. A new amendment has been put on the floor by Delegate of Canada that instead of removing equality, we make it equality and neutrality. Are there any countries wishing to contest the amendment put forth by Delegate of Canada? Delegate of European Union, is there any other delegation that wishes to contest? Delegate of United Kingdom? Delegate of European Union, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So when we are talking about gender equality, I feel that it serves the purpose of not having gender neutral, of considering all the genders, because even though we have only mentioned the binary gender system, because we have been, because that's the prevalent gender system that we have known. But of course, when we are talking about the gender equality, it focuses on all the genders, irrespective of whatever rights they have faced or whatever rights have been taken away from them. So I feel that neutrality kinds of loses the purpose of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of United Kingdom, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Hello. Delegate, I would like to ask, how do you put special mentions and equality together and also neutrality in a same statement? You stated about giving a special status to the transgender and then equality for men and women. Like, how do you expect to keep neutrality, equality, special status, everything in just one statement?
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So I would like to rephrase my point. What I said was, if women are underrepresented, then trans women should be represented more because they have way less representation than what women are represented. That's what I said. If I'm rephrasing what I said. So secondly, gender neutrality doesn't mean a man will be preferred or a woman will be preferred. A person will be preferred based on the basis of his skill. That's what gender neutrality means. We can focus more on the education of women. We can focus more on the education of transgender women, transgender person. But we cannot provide reservation on the just on the basis of the gender. We can provide reservation basis on the skills. Like we can provide reservations that some percent should be reserved for women, some percent should be reserved for transgender women in education institutes, not in workplaces.
Thank you, Delegate. Is there any other? Very well. We have Delegate of China, followed by the Delegate of Australia, followed by the delegation of South Africa, followed by the delegation of Saudi Arabia, United Kingdoms, and Russia. China, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Everyone is talking about the gender equality and gender neutrality here. Rather, I would like to concentrate on the areas or the places where the people are deprived of education. This gender neutrality or gender equality things also comes to those areas where people are not aware of what the basic education is. So the concentration of education must also be given to those areas where people don't get any kind of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have Australia. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Disagreeing with what the delegate of European Union said, that gender equality should be the only term used in the statement. There are other genders like gender queer, agender, bigender, and gender fluid that do not identify themselves as any gender and prefer to be gender neutral. Therefore, I would like to stand with the delegate of Canada and state that gender neutrality as well as gender equality should be included in the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Now we have South Africa. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
As per delegate of Canada said that male equality, female equality and transgender equality. What about LGBTQ? We have LGBTQ, or how can we forget and avoid and neglect LGBTQ? These are all the gender and we never forget LGBTQ. So we have to equally support all and give equality to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. Following the delegate of South Africa, I would like to support South Africa that why we are focusing more on equality and neutrality. Rather, we can write here that all human beings would be more preferable, according to me.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have the United Kingdom. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Okay, delegate, about your quote reservation, can you please define whom are you reserving right here? Because first of all, you spoke about transgender, then you spoke about woman reservation. So please explain reservation right here, because if you are reserving something, you are not standing upon your statements about the neutrality and equality.
Thank you. Delegate of Russia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Stating a lot of facts, and there are a lot of facts on ground right now. Just a question here is that we are taking suggestions from places that themselves don't even give recognition to LGBTQ or women themselves right now. So what about that?
Before we move forward, just a tip for the committee. You are representing nations. Nations cannot make such statements against other nations. On an international forum such as the G20, this would be taken as a huge offense by a country. So please be very careful before making any remarks that would seem not so diplomatic, would have unparliamentary language. Let's avoid that. Let's keep it clean. This will be I'll be taking last few comments on this on this amendment. I have to recognize you. We have the presidency, India, followed by South Korea, followed by Japan, followed by Canada. No, followed by United Kingdom and last Canada. That is it. Thank you. There is no space. There's a lot to cover. Delegate of India, you have the floor.
Dear distinguished colleagues, in India we recognize that importance on promoting gender inequality and have taken several measures to address gender-based discrimination. However, we also understand this is not just an issue faced by India, but rather it's a global issue. At G20, India strongly advocates that promoting gender neutrality as a means of achieving sustainable and inclusive economic growth. But we believe that promoting gender equality is a critical step towards creating a more inclusive and equitable society that values individuals for unique talents and abilities. India has also taken several gender neutrality steps, several measures, uniform in the schools, promoting gender sensitivity, curriculum, etc., etc. But at the G20, we believe that there is an opportunity to collaborate with other nations to share best practices, develop policies, measures aimed at the promoting gender equality. In conclusion, promoting gender equality is not just a matter of equality, but it's also critical to achieving sustainable, inclusive economic growth. India remains committed to working with the other nations, address the global problem, create a better future for all, and including all the genders in the forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegates, there is no thumping in the G20 meeting, so please don't thump. Delegate of South Korea.
A lot of debate is going in between the terms gender equality and gender neutrality. Let's make it very simple that gender equality is more of a quantitative.
More of a diverse term to include in this system. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have the Delegate of UK.
Thank you, Chair, for recognition. Thank you, Chair, for recognition. Issues, so can we shift our speech?
Pardon? This is the last speakers list I'm taking on this amendment. Post this, it will be closed. So there is no, you cannot shift your speech as such.
So we'll abstain. Abstain.
Abstaining. Yes. Very well. Delegate of Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So, listening to all the debates that has been going on the floor, answering the first question of the delegate of South Africa. The delegate of Canada never excluded LGBTQ community. The delegate of Canada said that it will include the transgender community. So, if that answers your question. Secondly, the delegate of United Kingdom mentioned the delegate of Canada wants to include women, transgender women, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their gender. in education, not on workplaces. That's, if that rephrases my point of view, that was it. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Delegate. At this point, we'll be moving forward. Is there consensus in the committee to accept this amendment, or are there any countries that wish to oppose this amendment? If you wish to oppose this amendment, please raise your hands. Hands, not hands. If you wish to oppose this amendment, otherwise this amendment will be passed. Indonesia, European Union, Germany, South Africa, presidency. Do you support or oppose it? Okay, there's no consensus in the committee. The amendment will be voted on at a later point of time. We move on. We move on to the fourth paragraph of the preamble. We reaffirm the right to education as a human right and its continuity during all situations as foundational to our national and global development in lines with the United Nations 2030 agenda. At 2030, we have an amendment proposed by the delegation of United States of America. United States of America, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So we have two questions regarding this. Number one, how are we going to measure this? And number two, can the qualifier fit with each country's priority and ability?
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any delegations wishing to support or oppose the amendment presented by the delegation of United States? We will have a statement from the presidency shortly based on the communique. We have delegate of Indonesia, followed by the delegation of Canada. Are there any other speakers wishing to speak? Delegate of Italy. Delegate of Indonesia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Regarding the questions posed by the delegate of USA, I would like to suggest that we can take the help from international organizations like OECD or IMF and World Bank to create a quantitative techniques for the measurement of these aspects as they work on a global level. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So, the delegation of Canada would like to support the delegation of USA. A same generalized goal for all the member nations will not be a feasible solution. Some skill may be considered of great importance in one geographical area, but it will be a basic skill in other geographical area. So, what will be the benchmark on which the sustainable development goals will work? There's a big question on that. So we need to discuss that.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Italy, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Hello. Am I audible? Am I audible, sir? Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
you are. Yes, you are.
So a certain body can be created with the help of G-20 and other kind of international committees that can help and measure the ongoing situation for the global development goals. Apart from that, as the delegate mentioned about the basic criteria of education, I agree with your delegate that every country has a different basic criteria of education, but a certain set of rules can be formed that can be unanimous for every country and then looked upon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have a statement from the presidency on the amendment presented by the United States of America.
So delegates, we need to understand the fact that the SDG goals that are...
Delegate of United States of America, you were not recognized. The presidency has the floor right now. They are responding to your question.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Delegate of United States, I'm here to discuss about the initiatives taken by the United Nations toward achieving the global development by 2030. As we all know that UN has a set of series ambitious goals known as the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, aimed to promoting economic growth, social inclusion and environmental sustainability. The UN promotes global partnerships and collaborations. To achieve the SDGs, we encourage public-private partnerships and international corporations to share best practices and accelerate progress. By working together, we can achieve more than working alone. And to combat climate change and protect the environment, the UN promotes renewable energy, sustainability, land use, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We aim to eradicate poverty and reduce inequality, access to basic services, and addressing income inequality. And in conclusion, UN has taken several initiatives towards achieving global development by 2030. We remain committed to working with the nations towards a more sustainable, equitable future. Thank you. We accept the amendments.
Very well. Are there any countries that wish to oppose the amendment presented by the United States of America? Seeing none, and as the presidency has accepted the amendment shall be added into the draft communique. Thank you. We now move on to the fifth paragraph of the preamble. We recognize the transformative role of education in developing skills for life, work, and sustainable development. So children and young people acquire the skills and knowledge to leverage digital technology, find sustainable solutions to climate change, and be active citizen collaboration with civil society and private sector. Yes, Delegate of Canada. Yeah.
Hello. So the clause states that I quote, so children and young people acquire the skill and knowledge to leverage digital technology. We need to specify what young means. We need to be precise of what is the age for young. Secondly, if we just include children and young people, we are going against the first clause, which states that, I quote, leaving no one behind. Why should old people be left behind in acquiring skills?
Very well. Thank you, Delegate. The floor is now open for countries that wish to speak on the amendment presented by the Delegate of Canada. We have the delegation from Japan, followed by the delegation of UNICEF. No, that's UNESCO, sorry. Apologies. UNESCO. Oh, you're OECD. Sorry. No, I'm OECD. Followed by Argentina. Followed by Mexico, and then Indonesia. Delegate of Japan, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. My concern is regarding the very first statement. I would like to quote that we recognize the transformative role of education in developing skills for life. So my question is, does that skill for life or the life skill education includes the education such as disaster risk education or the mine risk education?
Delegate of Japan, we are currently speaking on the amendment presented by the Delegate of Canada. If you have an amendment, it can be taken on at a later point of time, but right now we are speaking on the amendment presented by the Delegate of Canada that is defining what is meant by young people in the second line of the fifth paragraph of the preamble, and why only young people should be included for acquiring the skills and knowledge to leverage digital technology. That is the amendment that has been presented by the Delegate of Canada. Delegate of OECD, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. So instead of children and young people, can we just keep it as college and as students and adults as well, because adult learning is also a very important part in education, and also adult learning and vocational skills. And again, adding to the point of Canada, if we only include children and young people, it would be against leaving no one behind. That is a statement from the OECD.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have the delegate from Argentina. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Hello. Thank you, Chair. So, since we are focusing on the clause children and young people, it's not working. Hello. I would like, the delegate of Argentina would like to agree with Canada. I would like to suggest an amendment saying just people and not including children and young, because that would mean the people of all age groups. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate. We now move to delegate of Mexico. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. The delegate of Mexico would like to second the amendment presented, because the inclusion of the clause, so children and young people, is kind of exhaustive and limiting, given the fact that we are endorsing lifelong learning and future of work. And so we believe that this clause should be amended and that it goes against the previous clause mentioned, as has been seconded by OECD as well.
Thank you, delegate. We now move to delegation of Indonesia. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the... Hello. I would like to oppose the amendment by Canada, because we are talking here about future of work and sustainable development, and children and young people are the primary stakeholders of for the future, for the sustainable development, and they will be the principal stakeholders in the making of future. And in future, they will be the one who will take the lead for the working. Or so, putting young people and children here puts the emphasis on their role in the sustainable development. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you. Yes, delegate of Canada.
So one of the major concerns of this committee was also to discuss about lifelong learning. Learning should not stop at young age only. Every person has the right to upskill himself. That was one of the major concerns of this committee and one of the sub-agendas of the committee. So I would stress on the topic that only children and young people should be removed, and it should be replaced by every individual.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of OECD, followed by, are there any other delegation that wish to oppose or support the amendment put forth by delegation of Canada? We have United Nations, United States of America, followed by Brazil, followed by Italy. Delegate of OECD, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
As said by many speakers and OECD earlier, the term children and young people is in fact pretty exhaustive, and as stated in the committee as well, education is not limited to the school environment. Education is not limited to the technical field alone. Education is also also includes vocational education, especially for the people and adults who have not received a formal schooling.
Thank you, delegate. We now have the delegate of USA.
In support of the statement made by the delegate of Canada, USA would like to just add that there's a digital and technological gap between the young and the adults, and USA feels the need to add adaptive measures so as to accommodate the technological skills set of adults. We feel that we need to add the clause adaptive measures along with it.
Thank you, delegate. Delegate of Brazil, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for recognition. So, as delegate from Indonesia shared, we are focusing on sustainable development. Then sustainable development is a concept that empathizes the need of current generation and future generation. So we need to focus on current generation, let it be of any age, let it be the children, let it be the adolescent people, let it be old people. As we are focusing on lifelong learning and work future, that's why I am supporting the delegate of Canada on amending this word children and young people to keep it as students or any individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Italy, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
The delegation of Italy certainly agrees with the amendment made by the delegation of Canada. We would like to recommend that besides of young age, it should be mandatory for all the young age of the civilization to get all the skilled and learning, both tech and classroom based. But the core points coming upon elderly people, it should be coined upon that the government should not be imposing skill based learning, while the induced learning that should be given by the government should be completely taken upon by the individual, which require or need to understand or acquire the skills by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any other delegations that wish to speak? Delegate of South Africa, followed by Delegate of Australia, followed by the Presidency, India. Delegate of South Africa, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
I agree with Delegate of Canada, but I just want to say something, just add on, add learning need and resources for everyone. Because learning has no limits and no age. Please add learning need and resources for everyone. This is not possible. Everyone fulfill their learning need and resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Australia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
We completely support the statement by the amendment by the delegate of Canada. Our motto as G20 states is learning, upskilling, reskilling, and new skilling. This would help us combat unemployment in the coming times, which would come from disruptive AI technologies like ChatGPT, Quillbot, and everything that would replace human labor and would bring reskilling and upskilling as one of the priority areas that cannot be bound by age restriction, and therefore it should be open for all, and students would be a better term for it.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have the Presidency, India.
In support of Delegate of Canada, I must say that it's good to that everybody deserves education, including, I think it may be child, it may be of middle age, it may be a young person, or maybe a senior citizen. Everybody deserves education, and that's I think everybody should be agreed, I guess so. And India is a firm supporter of leaving no one behind approach towards achieving the sustainable development goals. And we recognize that everyone, regardless of the age of social economic status, should have access to the basic services, opportunities to lead a dignified life. And in India, we have taken several initiatives aimed at promoting education for senior citizens. For example, we established universities specifically for senior citizens as Indira Gandhi National Open University School of Humanities and Social Sciences, which provides distance learning programs for senior citizens as well. Furthermore, we recognize that senior citizens face unique challenges such as limited mobility and health issues, which can make accessible education difficult. But as such, we are exploring in innovation solution and make education more accessible for senior citizens. In conclusion, India firmly believes that senior citizens should be provided with the access of education, just like children, and we are committed to promoting lifelong learning and ensuring no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Indonesia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
I would again reiterate my position in regard to opposition of Delegate of Canada. So the situation we are in regard to sustainable development and climate change and such, we require immediate attention to the issues. And in the global south, I don't think it is possible to pay attention to to pay all the attention to everyone. So we require immediate attention to the primary stakeholders. So that's why it is correct, in my opinion, for children and young people to be there on the declaration, so that we pay primary attention, immediate attention to the issues at hand, because it is not possible all at once to pay attention to other problems.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Oman.
I would like to ask delegate of, I'm not sure, I did not get the country.
Delegate of Indonesia.
Delegate of Indonesia. What do you mean when you say the primary stakeholders? How did you define that the young individuals are the primary stakeholders? And how is it not that the older individuals won't be the primary stakeholders? How did you define that? Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Indonesia, you weren't recognized. Delegate of United Kingdom, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
I completely agree with the delegate of Oman about primary stakeholders. Sir, if you're commenting on a primary stakeholder, let me just clarify it. Here, there are a lot of countries who have it as a fundamental human basic right of a child to get education. So if you are having a primary stakeholders, if you're using this particular term, so you are actually ignoring and discriminating a group of people right here. Like, education is something which is a very basic thing, and the senior citizens or anybody, I'm not focusing on the very senior citizens side right here, anybody who have not got education, it's their right. But a child who's just born and who doesn't even know what's going on in this world has its it's his fundamental right to get
Thank you,
this
Delegate.
education.
Your time is up. We will not be taking any more comments on the amendment put forth by the Delegate of Canada. Are there any countries that wish to oppose the amendment put forth by the Delegate of Canada? Please raise your hands. Wish to oppose? Delegate of Indonesia. Delegate of European Union. Are there any other countries? UNESCO. UNESCO wishes to oppose. Very well. Thank you so much. This amendment is shelved for now. We move on with the document. We come to the 6th paragraph of the preamble. We reiterate our commitment to take collective and individual action to accelerate progress on achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 4, focusing on leaving no one behind and gender equality, providing equitable access and safe learning environment, safe and qualitative learning environment in classrooms and communities. And yes, Delegate of Russia.
We would like to amend the word classroom and communities.
To what?
Because in this digital era, why do everyone has the
Delegate, I understand your point. I'm asking, you would like to amend classrooms and communities to what? What is the term that you would wish to substitute it with?
We'll have to get back with that, the exact verbatim for that.
Very well, Delegate. That amendment is shelved for now. There is no amendment on the floor. Do you wish to propose an amendment? Because Russia's amendment is not taken for now because they don't have an amendment to give. Delegate of Italy.
So we would like to make an amendment to the word classroom to digitally tech-enabled learning. Classrooms along with digitally tech-enabled learning.
So digitally tech-enabled classrooms.
Yes.
Very well. Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Australia, do you have an amendment you wish to propose?
So actually this paragraph is a repetition of the 3rd paragraph of the preamble.
Very well. Noted. First we will deliberate upon the amendment given by the Delegate of Italy, and after that we will deliberate upon the amendment given by the delegation of Australia. Very well. Countries wishing to speak on the amendment put forth by the delegate of Italy, please raise your placards. We have... There is no parliamentary inquiry in G20, but guest delegate of Canada. Rephrases the amendment. The amendment put forth by the delegate of Italy is in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth paragraph. On the third line, on the second last word of the third line, at classrooms, saying digitally tech-enabled classrooms. We have South Korea, followed by Brazil, followed by Australia, followed by Russia, Brazil, Australia, Russia, and United Kingdom. Delegate of South Korea, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Why do we have to specify that we need classrooms or digitally enabled classrooms, and why not just a learning environment to be in? Why classrooms?
Very well. Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Brazil, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. So, Brazil being a country which supports the digital tech-enabled classrooms, but currently we are not supporting the amendment in the sixth paragraph to change the word classrooms to digitally tech-enabled classrooms. Because there are so many countries which are rural areas and which has no internet connection, and there are classrooms and remote areas without any kind of digital infrastructure. So I better urge to keep it as a healthy environment of learning, and I would urge all the countries here to come together and give equal access technology and digital resources to all the students, just like providing subsidized internet access to the low-income families and promoting digital infrastructure in remote areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have Delegate of Australia. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
We would like to ask the delegate of Italy to redefine the term classroom for it to be more inclusive of both online and offline learning, which would benefit every section of the society and would allow a preference for the learners to which they can, that would be it, sorry.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Russia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So we are in support of what Republic of Korea put forth, the concern about classrooms. So we would like it to be reframed into classrooms, communities, and digital environment for everyone to study, even if there are no classroom and just the homely environment.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move on to the Delegate of United Kingdom. You have the floor for 60 seconds.
Sir, in this sense, some country cannot afford the digital classroom because their currency is not well conditioned. So it is a inequality for others. That in this sense, we can, we have a inequality in this sense. So please care about this thing.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Italy, you have the floor for 60 seconds to respond to the questions posed forth before you.
Thank you so much for the recognition, Chair. As it has already been mentioned about the learning environment, but on the contrary, a classroom that has been digitally maintained can also be a very great learning environment where the things can be taught to a very certain extent that they will be very helpful for the students to be learned. First point. And the second point that they were mentioned about the rural and the semi-rural areas were not very equipped with the digital ages. It is a future goal where the countries can come together and incorporate and put on suggestions how this can happen. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any other countries wishing to speak on it? Delegate of China, followed by Canada, followed by the Presidency India, followed by Mexico. That is it. Delegate of China, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. I would like to support the delegate of Republic of Korea and Argentina, because once you sum up the quality learning environments, it clearly defines the classroom, digital classroom and communities. So better it would be qualitative learning environment rather than it classroom and communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So basically, after all the discussion on the floor, I am against the amendment proposed by the delegation of Italy, because the amendment was thought-provoking, but it was not feasible at all. There are countries that don't have even proper physical classrooms. How are digital classrooms going to be incorporated in that conditions? So at last, I would like to say a new amendment can be like that. A new amendment can be done. Countries can come together to focus on digital learning. Countries should come together and research how to solve this problem of digital learning.
Thank you, Delegate. We now have the Presidency, India.
We oppose this statement. Like, we have to add some extra points on that particular point, that it's not just about digital classrooms and the particular practical learning, but we believe that the both are the same amount and 50-50. I think the decision is always 50-50, that both the systems are applicable. Like, if we can adapt to digitally, then it will be good for that. And if we want practical classrooms to be applied, then definitely that will be also okay. And if we say that for digital classrooms and e-learning platforms can help overcome barriers to education such as distance, geography and lack of resources, and it can be a good factor. But as well as in support of learning physically, specifically in learning environment, and it will be online learning may not be suitable for that, and the learners, particularly those who require face-to-face interactions, have their specific needs. So in conclusion, while digital classrooms are not a learning environment, have the potential to revolutionize education, but as well as we need to consider the benefits of the challenges of the digital
Thank you, Delegate.
learning.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Delegate of Mexico, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Sorry. We support we support an inclusion on the line of providing equitable access to safe and qualitative learning environment in classrooms. We propose inclusion of providing equitable access and safe and quality learning in any education environment and ecosystem, be it restrictive, descriptive, directive, or simply introspective as a person goes through life.
We believe that this will not be merely restricted to digital learning or physical learning for that matter. Hence, we propose this.
Thank you, Delegate. We now move to vote on the amendment put forth by the delegation of Italy. Countries that oppose the amendment, please raise your hands. The amendment fails. We now move to discuss the amendment put forth by the delegation of Australia, stating that the 6th paragraph is similar to the 3rd paragraph, and therefore it should be deleted. Countries wishing to speak on this, please raise your hands. Or we directly move to vote on this amendment. Countries that support this amendment, please raise your hands. Yeah, the both are the paragraphs are same, so they want to delete this one paragraph. So raise your hand, no? Countries that oppose this amendment. Yes, delegate of United States of America. Is there some confusion?
We do believe that there is a difference between the paragraphs. We do believe that there is a difference between the text written in paragraph 3 and paragraph 6 of the preamble.
Very well. Do you wish to speak on it?
No, we refuse to. We want to abstain. But
Very
we do
well.
believe that the paragraph 6 should be included in the preamble.
So countries, I would once again ask countries that oppose this amendment, please raise your hands. Seeing none, this amendment passes and the paragraph shall be deleted from the communique. Please delete the 6th paragraph. Moving on, we are committed to work collaboratively with member states, education stakeholders and international organizations to address the challenges and opportunities facing the education sector. We will prioritize evidence-based policies and initiatives that support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 4 on ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. We have an amendment put forth by the delegation of United States of America that states, we expect the integration of a paragraph on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, which is having significant consequences not only on the global economy but also for the education. For that purpose, we suggest using the agreed language of paragraphs 3 and 4 of Bali Declaration. This has been the language agreed amongst our leaders, so there is no need to negotiate a new wording. Delegate of United States of America, you have the floor for 60 seconds to explain your amendment.
Basically the Bali paragraph 3 and 4 of the Bali declaration states that we have witnessed the war in Ukraine and that has impacted the global economy, and for that reason when the global economy was affected, the education was also affected in Ukraine and the surrounding areas. So during the UNSC and UNGA, in the resolution number ES 11/1 dated 2nd March 2022, as adopted by a majority of vote, many of the people voted it and it passed. So that's why we want to want an integration of the Ukraine conflict, and most members strongly condemned the war in Ukraine and stressed it as causing immense human suffering and exacerbating existing fragilities in the global economy.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up. We will now be taking comments on the amendment put forth by the delegation of USA. Countries wishing to speak, please raise your hands. We have Saudi Arabia, followed by Turkey, followed by Canada. Saudi Arabia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Sir, according to the clause, it is written, we will prioritize evidence-based policies and initiatives that support the achievement of SDG, particularly 4. So how this conflict of Ukraine is supporting the SDG 4, the initiative or the achievement of SDG 4 in this conflict of Ukraine. And if this amendment is proposed, it's not necessary to omit this in this preamble section. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Turkey, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. So, conflict in Ukraine is not the only conflict in the world. So, how this can be justified for the delegate from USA to remove the word all?
Very well. Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
I would like to point out to the delegate of Saudi Arabia and delegate of who was the previous speaker? Turkey, that the war that is going on between Russia and Ukraine has posed great threat to humanity. It has violated all human rights, and it has also affected the education system of both the countries, be it Russia and Ukraine. So it should be included that it should be concluded that a student should be able to practice his education without the threat of other country bullying it. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Before we proceed further, due to the paucity of time, we will only be taking amendments from the delegates now. We are choosing to ignore the amendments that are there already in the communique. We will be going forward with inputs and amendments that the delegates wish to propose. Thank you. Countries wishing to speak on the amendment put forth by the delegation of United States of America, please raise your hands. Delegate of Mexico. Delegate of Mexico, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. We believe that this amendment is very limited to particularly one conflict. When we are discussing about education for one and all, we should also be involving humanity as a whole when we are discussing conflicts that affects the world in its entirety. In this one, it has been particularly mentioned one particular conflict, and we believe that this is very restrictive. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of United States of America, would you like to respond? You have 60 seconds on the floor.
The Delegate of United States disagrees with what the Delegate of Mexico has said, and we do believe that the Russia-Ukraine conflict has had global repercussions, and this has significantly affected the education system in both Russia and Ukraine, and we do believe that the addition of Bali Declaration and the paragraphs should be added in the preamble.
As there is consensus on this thing already, so like it would be easily incorporated, so there would be no problem over here.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Turkey, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. As said by the delegate of USA, the consent of UN cannot be incorporated in the consent as the consent of G20 nations. So,
thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Indonesia, yes, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
As Indonesia recognizes this war on Ukraine as a bilateral problem between Russia and Ukraine, and so I would like to oppose the inclusion of this paragraph in this forum, as we don't think we have Ukraine as a member in this forum, so it would not be correct to reiterate a bilateral problem in an international forum.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of United States of America, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
As stated by the Delegate of Turkey, we do believe that there are countries in this forum that have been affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and so we need to address this issue.
And so furthermore, the countries present in the G20 are also present in the UN. So when they have given the consent, so it can be considered over here also.
And them having double stances is hypocritical on their part.
Pardon? Could you repeat that?
And which part exactly?
The last sentence that you spoke.
So countries having double stances on their stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict in terms of the education sector is hypocritical on their part.
Delegate of United States of America, you are speaking at a multilateral forum where you have 20 of the most powerful nations sitting in front of you, and you choose to call them hypocritical?
So, sir, we wanted to say over here that basically, as a delegate of Turkey stated that the consent of UN will not be considered in the G20, I wanted to mention that the countries present over here are also present in the UN. So there they have given their consent, and now they are considering it is not valid over here.
That very well may be. My problem is not with that. My problem is with the use of vocabulary done by the delegation of United States of America. At the very beginning of this committee, I deplored the committee to, not use unparliamentary language and be very mindful of the terminology you use to address other partner nations. this will not be. Please be mindful of what you speak because you're representing a nation. And it would certainly not be in the United States of America's best interest to call Turkey hypocritical.
We would like to rephrase the word hypocritical with double stance.
Thank you, Delegate. We shall move on from that. Delegate of Russia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Delegate of Russia believes that each body that is being created by United Nations or each committee has their own purposes, just like talking about what is happening between Russia and Ukraine can be a matter of UNSC or UNGA dissect. This is G20 and we are here to find a solution to a common problem that is totally based on education. And our internal matters are our internal and we would like to keep it internal.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate, there's a quick announcement in the committee. Due to the paucity of time, we do not have the time to go point by point for the entire communique. So now I will be entertaining major changes in the communique. For the entire communique, if there is any major changes that you feel or you wish to propose, we will be taking close to 3 speakers on each amendment, and we will be moving forward because it is essential that we pass the communique for the benefit of the committee. So I would urge the committee to suggest any major or dire changes that are there in we have an amendment by United Kingdom, followed by Argentina, followed by Australia, followed by Canada, Saudi Arabia, Germany, South Korea, and Brazil. We will move forward with these amendments for now. If the time permits, we'll be taking on more amendments. Delegate of UK, you have the floor to present your amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for recognition. The Delegate of United Kingdom would like to the third paragraph of ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy, especially in the context of blended learning. In the fourth, we would like to comment on inclusion of recognize the full cycle of education, and we would also like to add including early education care and schooling in higher education, with special emphasis on TVET.
Very well, thank you, Delegate. We'll be entertaining 3 speakers on this amendment. Delegates wishing to speak, please raise your placards. Australia. China.
Thank you, Chair.
No, I'm still taking names. Is there any other delegation that wishes to speak? We have space for 1 speaker. Take care. We move on with the delegation of Italy. Very well. Delegation of Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving the floor. I would like to suggest that there is already a inclusion of TVET exchange program in the 4th page, para 3. So I don't find it including in the paragraph. TVET. I don't, yeah. So in the paragraph 4, it is stated that, I quote, We promote digital-based international education and training, including TVET exchange. So I don't think there is a necessity to add TVET further.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of China, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. As suggested by the Delegate of United Kingdom, I quote, we recognize the importance of equitable access to inclusive and quality early childhood care and education. Here, actually, we need a clarification that what is equitable access, which is inclusive to the early childhood care. Could you please clarify that? Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Italy, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
So the amendment which was proposed by delegation of United Kingdom. So I would like to say that TVET is already a part of the SDG 4 target. So which focuses on equal access of all affordable quality technical education. So I think I'm against the amendment made by United Kingdom.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of United Kingdom, you may respond. You have 60 seconds on the floor.
Well, responding to the questions that we have been countered with, well, first of all, we would like to answer Australia about TVET. And also to Italy, because the question was maybe same. We just want to say on the special emphasis on TVET, because with all other amendments going on, we are actually we can say, neglecting the technological aspects of this committee right here. We are asking to put some emphasis and some light to the technological aspects too. So that's why we are proposing a special status for this amendment. And to China about equitable access, we would like to say equitable access here means about getting getting the education and all the opportunities to each.
Thank you, Delegate. Your time is up. We will be now voting on this amendment put forth by the Delegate of United Kingdom. All delegations that oppose this amendment, please raise your hands. Very well, this amendment fails. We move on to the amendment put forth by the Delegation of Australia. Delegation of Australia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. We would like to make an amendment in page 4, paragraph 7, which line number is 4, and which states that, I quote, one way to address these challenges is through building capacities and promoting lifelong learning. To this, we want to include the phrase that we should also include promoting and encouraging entrepreneurship and providing basic foundational courses on entrepreneurship as a part of fundamental education to promote employability and job opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegations wishing to speak on the amendment put forth by the Delegate of Australia, please raise your hands. Canada, followed by Saudi Arabia. Any other delegations wishing to speak? Delegate of Canada, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
The changes that were presented by the previous delegate are they are putting special emphasis on entrepreneurship, but I think favoriting just one topic is not what the solution, what G20 should be focusing on. There are countries where we don't even have access to digital tech, we don't have access to classrooms, and we are focusing on entrepreneurship. That's not how the flow of the committee should go. So I am against that amendment.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Saudi Arabia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. So I would like to tell that not in the 7th paragraph, but in place of that, in 9th paragraph, last line, as well as investing in education, and I would like to amend in that startup, entrepreneurship and incubation and training infrastructure necessary to support this effort.
Delegate, you may propose this during the amendment that you have proposed. You have an amendment that you have highlighted. Right now, we're discussing the amendment that has been given by Delegate of Australia. So, if that's your amendment, we can take it on later on, at a later point of time.
Okay, sir.
Delegate of Australia, you have the floor to respond.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the floor. To answer my counterpart, Canada, I would like to say that we quoted that we want to include, along with building capacities and promoting lifelong learning, we also want to include entrepreneurship, and we have not focused only on entrepreneurship. So we are taking entrepreneurship to be included along with building capacity and promoting lifelong learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We will now vote on the amendment put forth by the Delegate of Australia. All countries that oppose the amendment put forth by the Delegate of Australia, please raise your hands. OECD, United Kingdoms. Very well. We shelve this amendment. We move on to the amendment put forth by the delegation of Argentina. Argentina, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the floor. I would like to suggest an amendment on the last page. The first paragraph, second line. I would quote, this could involve sharing best practices, exchanging research findings, and collaborating on joint research projects. So I would like to make an amendment saying that cross-border collaboration and joint research projects at various levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegates wishing to speak on the amendment put forth by the delegation of Argentina, please raise your placards. Italy. Any other delegations wishing to speak? Delegation of Turkey. Delegate of Italy, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. As the delegate mentioned about the cross-border trades, but the major countries that are sharing borders with the neighboring countries do not have a very peaceful and a very mitigating relations with them. So how the delegation suggests that there can be a cross-border trades if the countries that are sharing borders do not allies? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Turkey.
I would like to add here one word, that the not only cross-border countries, but also all G20 countries with eradicating all the barrier of research. So these things to be added.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Argentina, would you like to respond?
Thank you, everyone, for your opinions. On my side, I wanted to say cross-border because it would have been easier for communication and travel, taking into consideration the practical issues. However, if G20 countries agree on cross-country collaboration on joint research projects at various levels, it would be a great amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We will now vote. All the countries that oppose the amendment put forth by Delegate of Argentina, please raise your hands. Oh, quite a few. Interesting. Very well. We now move to the amendment put forth by the delegation of Canada.
So I would like to have a say here. So, sir, as we are rejecting the ideas only on the basis of the votes, if according to your opinion, if you find that the amendment have some point, do have a say from the opposition as well, if time permits. Thank you.
It's the time constraint that is forcing me to run the committee like this. My hands are tied.
Yeah, sir, but I think that this discussion should not only go through a competition path, and it should have some outcomes as well.
Delegate of Canada, you have 60 seconds to present your amendment.
On page 2, under the FLN, the second paragraph, I quote, "We are committed to ensuring all girls and boys, especially the most marginalized, develop foundational learning by reducing the global share of children unable to read and understand a simple text by age of 10 by half by 2030 as a part of commitments to achieve SDG 4 targets." So there are two amendments that I would like to propose. First, I would like to remove girls and boys by all individuals under the age of 10. Secondly, a simple text is a very generalized way of judging whether a person is educated or not. So it should be replaced by simple understanding of the vocabulary in which the person speaks.
Thank you, Delegate. Countries wishing to speak on the amendment put forth by Delegate of Canada. We'll have Russia, followed by Indonesia, followed by Turkey. I can never see your placard, please. Is that Turkey? No, South Korea. South Korea. Delegate of Russia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
We support both the amendments made by the delegate of Canada. It's just that the second amendment made by the delegate of Canada, instead of using the word vocab, it would be better if we go for a statement where we say that it's to establish a phonic-based learning.
Thank you, Delegate. Indonesia, you have the floor for 60 seconds.
I don't think there is, in opposition to the delegate of Canada, I don't think there is any need of an amendment, as we are
I would like to go for the delegate of South Korea.
Thank you.
Speak on that amendment.
Thank you. So, as per the first amendment put forth by the delegate of Canada, so the delegate of South Korea does not want to delete the terms girls and boys, rather want to include the term girls, boys, and LGBTQ kids. So it becomes more broader in that sense, and the delegate of Korea doesn't want to speak about the second amendment put forth by the delegate of Canada. Thank you.
So, delegate of Germany.
Thank you, Chair. So, on page 5, paragraph 6, there's a line written, "These processes will require widening and upgrading the digital skill."
Delegate, the chair has not recognized you yet. So he's not South Korea.
Germany.
You will not recognize Germany. Delegate of South Korea, did you get a chance to speak?
Yes.
Very well. At this moment, due to paucity of time, the committee will now adjourn for lunch. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your hard work. We now adjourn for lunch. Thank you, delegates.